know you can study animation in college?
You can?
Yeah, you can. All you gotta do... Oh my goodness. Do you want to learn how to animate?
Yeah, I do.
Why do you sound like that? So this video isn't really a tutorial exactly, but I'm basically sharing the curriculum of an animation class I took, so if you want homework, do these assignments, I guess. Here's every assignment I had in animation class. But first, backstory. All right, stay with me. No, wait, no, wait. I'll be quick. Fall 2018. I had the opportunity to attend college and pursue my biggest passion in life, animation. I wanted to work in the animation industry as a visual development artist. Okay, I'm gonna pause real quick. Basically, visual development is like concept art for animation. You got character design, environment design, stuff like that. After the long, stressful process of applying to the animation major, which had its ups and downs, somehow I managed to get in. Okay, let's actually start talking about animation. So before I was accepted into the major, I had to take an intro to 2D animation class, and look, we all gotta start somewhere. And this is where I had to start. The bouncing ball. This is pretty much always the first exercise in an animation course, but it's a good intro to the 12 principles of animation, such as squash and stretch, timing, arcs. I'm not going to explain all of them, but if you want to learn more about the 12 principles, I'll link this video in the description. There's also tons of videos about it. So, if you want to learn how to animate, and you want to learn the fundamentals, but you're not even sure what the fundamentals are, learn the 12 principles, animate a bouncing ball. The bouncing ball also is good practice for like animating physics and gravity, and that stuff is pretty important. And then we had the classic sack of flour assignment. This can be your next assignment. All you gotta do is you animate a sack of flour, but with emotion. I have to sneeze. So this exercise has been around since the 30s. And according to my research, it was developed at Disney as a way for animators to practice animating weight and gesture. I went above and beyond by animating not 1, not 3, but 2 flour sacks. My idea was kind of to make one sneak up on the other. The point is to try and take an inanimate object. The point is to take an inanimate object and make it feel like a character. How does a sack of flour walk around and move and express emotions? The idea is that every character is like a sack of flour, if you think about it. But really though, I mean, the flour sack is pretty much just a couple steps back from being a full character with limbs and stuff. Alright, so once you've animated your ball and sack, you've basically done the 2 main assignments in my intro to 2D animation class. We had a bunch of drawing assignments, but this video is about animation. Okay, back to the college narrative. I'd been accepted into the animation major, and although my goal was to emphasize in visual development, I was required to take a more in-depth animation class, which obviously makes sense for an animation student. But hey, animation's really fun. Now, on to the regular old 2D animation class. We started with an assignment where we had to animate another bouncing ball, but with emotion. I chose lazy, just like myself. Look at that. Then we had to animate a sperm. What? Oh, my bad. The ball with tail assignment. The idea of this assignment is to practice follow-through and overlapping action in its most basic form. Wherever the ball goes, the tail follows. Now I know what you're thinking, this looks really silly and stupid, but if you think about it, this is the first step to animating something like hair. Are you ready? Look at this. Ready? Look. Ball, tail. Then we had another ball with tail assignment, but this time the ball had to be scared of something. I don't know, the criteria was really specific for some reason. I don't know why a dead fish just falls from the sky. I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was really tired. I don't know why a dead fish just falls from the sky. I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was really tired when I made this. You can skip this assignment. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't learn anything from this one. You can just I don't know what the point of this one is. Maybe to like learn how to animate another emotion. I don't know. I remember my friend in class couldn't stop laughing at how random it was. Lip syncing. This assignment was really fun and also really useful. Roll the clip. Are Pop-Tarts ravioli? Wait, what? Are Pop-Tarts ravioli? Wait, are they? Whatever, this is a self-explanatory assignment. If you want to animate characters talking, you gotta learn how to draw and animate mouths. Yeah. Did you think about that? Next. Next. Can we skip this one? Please? No? It's really important? Ugh. I feel like I've improved at walk cycles now, but man, when I did this assignment, it was rough. Some of these last assignments are easy to learn, but hard to master. But that's okay. You know, look, when you go to practice a new skill, your first attempt probably isn't going to be your best, right? But just keep practicing, and it'll become easier. Okay, let's get back into it, the walk cycle. Before I took this class, I don't know if I ever actually animated a walk cycle. So here's my first attempt. I was going for this cowboy outlaw guy with a big floppy hat, like sauntering, I guess. And okay, here's where I think I went wrong with this one. I think I went in to clean up the line art way too fast. I think I needed to do more rough passes before going in to clean it up, because the rough version I did doesn't look too bad. I mean, it looks okay. The movement feels like it's there. I just needed to go over it a few more times. Here's my second walk cycle attempt. I didn't finish it before it was due, but I mean, I got the basic movement down. I challenged myself to animate a child walking around. I wish I finished this actually. I feel like this was coming along nicely, but a deadline's a deadline. If I had to give a little tip for this one, I would say start with just a normal walk cycle. Like, in fact, literally just walk cycle animation guide. Here you go. Here's like 50 walk cycle guides you can follow. Just take your character and just draw it in these poses. Contact down, passing up, contact down, passing up, and then it loops. Like, this is literally how I animated the title card. Is you just follow the guide. There's nothing wrong with just following the guide. That's why these exist, is so that you could just reference them. Nothing wrong with using reference. And speaking of reference, we were required to shoot a reference video for our next assignment, which was the lift assignment. In this one, we had to have a character pick up a heavy object. So my plan for this one was I had this cool skeleton Grim Reaper dude who was gonna pick up a scythe and then stab the ground with it. So this was my reference video for that. And I know what you're thinking, why is he holding a crocodile? Well, it's an alligator. And so I was trying to make this reference video feel realistic, so I had a dumbbell in my backpack, but I wasn't gonna freaking ground pound it on my bedroom floor, so I just cut and used an alligator. Yeah, any other questions? And all that said, I couldn't finish the animation in time. It's a pretty rough version. It doesn't look too good, kinda sucks. You guys are probably like, did you even pass this class? But yes, I passed the class. Effects. I loved this assignment because effects animation is just so fun. You could just animate straight ahead and just have fun with it. So effects animation is like organic simulations, like fire, smoke, explosions. Anything that's like an effect, basically. I went with water for mine. And yeah, that's it. That's all the 2D animation assignments. There's plenty of other animation exercises you can do to practice, but those are the ones we did in my class. And I think it's a solid lineup of assignments to get you started. I also took a 3D animation class. I will keep this brief. Here's just a short compilation of the assignments I did for 3D animation. I don't even know where all of them are, so this isn't all of them, but my biggest takeaway is that 3D animation and 2D animation really aren't all that different. It's just the software. One involves drawing and the other involves posing 3D models, but it's all the same principles, and we had to do a bouncing ball, we had to do a lift, a walk cycle. But yeah, that was my experience learning animation in college. I mean, like, a small part of my experience. In conclusion, whether you're a prospective animation student or a hobby animator, or maybe you just fell down a rabbit hole of animation videos and tutorials on YouTube, well, hopefully you got something out of this. And maybe this video was kind of all over the place, and sorry about that, but hey, ever since I was 11 years old, and I had Jask Animation Shop 3 on my computer, and I was learning how to animate. Well, I've just loved animation, and I love talking about it, so I hope you liked the video. I hope it was as fun to watch as it was for me to make, so thanks for watching. Bye! Huh?
Here's how I went from this to this. Then back to this. Not really. I mostly work as a freelance illustrator and animator right now, and I do some YouTube on the side. So I'm not totally jobless. But one time, I had a job in the
Western animation industry.
Specifically, I was hired as a background artist on a primetime animated TV show. And it was pretty cool. Even though it was a short gig, I learned a lot.
And I figured I'd tell you all about it in a YouTube video, because why not? Now, I'm no expert on this stuff. Like, I'm not gonna be like, this is how you get a job in the animation industry, you loser, you dummy. Like, this is how you get a job, you unemployed ugly. No, I'm not the best source for that. Like, I've only had one industry job so far. But seriously, there's some amazing channels out there by people who have tons of experience in the industry and have some really good insights if you're wanting some actionable tips on how to enter the animation industry. But this video will be more like a story time, and I'll tell you about what it was like to work in TV. Okay, let's set the scene. I had just graduated college, and bachelor's degree in hand, I set my sights on the animation industry.
One thing that they tell you in animation school, and that you'll hear from recruiters from every major animation studio,
is to gear your portfolio towards the exact job you want.
I decided my thing was going to be backgrounds, because I like painting and playing with colors, and I actually really like drawing backgrounds, believe it or not. So I'd been putting together a background painting portfolio,
and was specifically gunning for a job in 2D animated television.
I mean, that's why I decided to study animation in the first place, because I really like cartoons. Ever since I was a kid, I'd always dreamed of seeing my name in the credits of a movie or a TV show. So that's what I was gonna do. That was my goal, and I was gonna do that. And speaking of goals, maybe you have some creative goals of your own. Maybe you want to learn how to draw and paint backgrounds, or learn Blender, or make a comic book, or make animations like this. Well, might I recommend Skillshare, the sponsor of this video. Skillshare is a platform designed to help you build creativity into your life by learning directly from real, super talented, and successful creatives. They have classes taught by professional illustrators, renowned graphic designers, and successful entrepreneurs. And let me tell you, there's so many classes to choose from, there's like thousands. I took a class called Mid-Century Illustration Fun with markers and ink. I've always loved the style of vintage mid-century art, and this class gave me the opportunity to learn and practice it for myself. It was so easy to follow, and you get to learn at your own pace because you can always pause and come back to it later. And not only do I have all this new art to show for it, but I got this little badge for finishing the class. Skillshare also makes a great gift for friends and family, so join today and grab a gift card while you're at it. The first 500 people to use my link in the description or scan the QR code will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Get started today! Okay, back to the video. So once I put together my background portfolio, I applied to a lot of studio jobs out of college and got a lot of rejections. Just all rejections. And my portfolio probably wasn't up to par with the hundreds of other artists with more industry experience applying to these background painter positions. And you know, there's always room for improvement when it comes to art, no matter what level you're at. But studios also like it if you live in LA. If you live in this red circle and you want to work in animation, congratulations. But one day, I got a call. I have phone anxiety. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna answer that. But then I got an email. One studio in particular was reaching out about my application for a background artist position. So they ambushed me with a phone interview without telling me it was going to be a phone interview. So, what do you know about our studio? But I guess I did okay because I got asked to do an art test for a little show of theirs called Archer. An art test is like a job audition, for lack of a better term. If a studio is interested in hiring you, and maybe they really liked your art and your portfolio, but they don't know if you can adapt to their in-house art style or like the art style of the TV show, they'll ask if you're interested in doing a little test at first. Because I was applying to a background artist position, they gave me a layout of an environment, an Archer style guide, then they tasked me to paint an example background in the Archer art style. I'm not allowed to show any of that, because... But I did the test, and I turned it in, and they really liked it. And I got an interview with the background director and the background lead, and it was super chill, they were super nice. And I think they just wanted to make sure I wasn't a lunatic, because afterwards, I got offered the job. I would be working as a background artist on season 14 of Archer. So I packed my shit and hauled my ass across the country to begin my professional career in the animation industry. And on a long-running show like Archer, of all things, I mean, like, they're just gonna keep going with that, right? I mean, they're on season 14. Surely they'll just keep renewing the show for more seasons, and I'll have steady work in the animation industry for years to come. Yeah. Day one of my new job, we started with an orientation at the studio with myself and all the other new hires, and we had a big meeting, and we did all of our onboarding, and we got a studio tour. We got to walk around and see all the little amenities they had. It was pretty empty though. The whole studio was pretty empty. It was pretty empty, and this is when I found out that I could work from home, and that the entire background painting team and almost the entire crew also worked from home. So I figured I would save on gas and commuting time and work from home as well. And don't get me wrong, I love working from home. I am a hermit, okay? But if my entire job can be done remotely, then why did I have to move? It's something to do with taxes. But what does a TV background painter do on the job? What is it like? Laura Price has a video that perfectly explains basically the entire animation pipeline and what each job Who is lighting fireworks? It's October. And what each job title is responsible for. But basically, as far as working on backgrounds go, once the animatic of an episode has been locked down, meaning all the storyboards are finalized and complete and timed with dialogue and sounds, I'm gonna explode!
Oh no!
The episode is divided up into shots, and every different camera angle in a scene is a new shot. Then this animatic gets sent to the layout department. On Archer, the backgrounds were laid out in 3D first, then painted over, so it wasn't a fully 2D pipeline. The layout department would build the environment in 3D and set the camera up for each shot as shown in the animatic. 3D renders are then sent to the background painters. Then I get to do my job. So the background director assigns a shot for each background painter to work on. We're given the 3D render of the environment to paint on, along with any necessary references and concept art for the scene. Then they'll give us information on what time of day it is in the shot and what the mood should feel like and what colors to use. And we can always refer to the animatic to get context for what's happening in the scene and where the characters are placed. Then it's time to get painting, finally. It sounds like a whole lot of things to juggle, but it wasn't too bad. Those instructions about time of day and colors, those were mostly given if you were doing an establishing shot. An establishing shot is a film term that refers to a shot usually at the beginning of a scene when the camera is at its widest, and it informs the audience of the location of the scene, so they don't get confused about where they are. On our production, the establishing shots would be painted and approved first, because that way, painting every other shot in that location is a breeze, because you can just use the establishing shot as your main point of reference. So there I was, painting backgrounds all day and hanging with the artists on team meetings where we would regroup and make sure things were happening on schedule. And you get notes on your paintings from the background director or the art director if they have any feedback for you or things they want you to change. And when your background gets approved, it gets composited with the character animation and they put in the voices and music and sound effects, and you have your episode. And here's a few of the backgrounds I got to paint. Since the season has long been out now, I'm allowed to show these things. I learned a lot as an artist. I got even better at drawing backgrounds since I was drawing them all day, every day. I also got a taste of what the animation pipeline is like. I used to always think about how long animation takes, there's so many steps of the process, putting a whole show or movie together, the whole thing must take forever. And it does take a long time, but it's like a factory. When you finish doing your part on the shot, you pass it to the next person who does their part, and they pass it to the next, and they keep passing it down until it's all done. And this way things go quick and everyone is able to do their jobs at the same time for the most part. You could have someone doing character animation on one episode while someone else is drafting storyboards for a different episode. So it's very streamlined, everyone has deadlines, and the whole thing is a big team effort. I remember hearing this quote about the film industry that's like, it's a miracle anything ever gets made. Imagine trying to wrangle hundreds, sometimes thousands of artists together to make one thing. And they're all split into different departments. They all have different skills and responsibilities, but you're all working on one thing, and it has to be cohesive, and everyone has to have a unified creative vision. So yeah, this is true. So there you go. It was a short gig, it was less than a year of work, but it was fun. And I'm glad I got to have the experience, and no matter what direction my artistic career goes, I'll always be able to say I worked on the last season of Archer. Isn't that so cool? Well, what a cool show. It's so cool.
Fine, bro. It's my first time talking in stream, so I'm nervous. Can you set the timer for me? Let me know when 5 minutes ends.
Oh, it's such a good show. I love that show. I'll be honest, I've never watched it, but I've skimmed through some of my episodes and found my backgrounds. And it was fun getting to show my family and friends. And there's my name in the credits. Specifically for the back half of the season and the 3-episode finale, those are the episodes that I worked on. But yeah, there's me. And you know what happens when you get your first credit. That's right, I got an IMDb page. Look at that, Tristan Davis, number 7. And here's a fact. They don't make the IMDb page for you. You have to request one yourself. I don't know why I thought they made it for you, if thinking about it now. But if you have a credit on a show or movie that's listed on the website, you're qualified. Hey, have you ever wanted an on-screen credit? Well, get a load of this. I have a Patreon, and if you become a member, you will get your own on-screen credit, as well as early access to my videos, behind-the-scenes content. If you'd like to join, you can go to patreon.com/curbs with 3 S's. And a huge thank you to my current patrons for their contributions. Your support goes a long way. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a comment.
Thanks for watching. Bye. Do you want to learn about character design? Or maybe you want tips to help your character designs look better? Well, I'm here to share the entire curriculum of a character design class I took as an animation major. So, if you do these assignments, you basically took the class yourself. Like, actually. Okay, here's every assignment I had in my character design class. I will also throw in some design tips and principles, stuff that we learned along the way to help with our character designs. Everything I'm about to say, I learned in this class. Okay, let's get started. You're late. Okay, our first assignment was the anatomy assignment. And I'm gonna call this assignment 0 because this is basically just a warm-up. Design a anatomically focused character design. Draw a character in their underwear. Okay, that was a joke. You don't have to literally draw a character in their underwear. You could draw a skin-tight suit or stuff like this. The point of this assignment is to get feedback on our anatomy skills before diving into the rest of the class. But at this point, all of us students had taken life drawing and gesture drawing, so we kind of had some practice of drawing anatomy and, stylizing the human form. But if you need to practice anatomy, there's plenty of online resources and references. Google Images, Pinterest, Instagram. You could go to a life drawing session. There's yourself. You could use yourself as a reference. You could pose for photos. If you need a hand reference, you literally have 2 of them right in front of you. Okay, I'm gonna have a drink of water after that. Unfortunately, I couldn't find my anatomy assignment from the character design class, so I don't really have an example. You could just practice figure drawing or do fan art for this assignment if you want, but feel free to take this opportunity to come up with your own idea for a character. That's what we did in the class. That's what we were supposed to do. Moving on. When you think about caricatures, you might imagine those caricature artists at carnivals that draw people really funny. And that's pretty much what this assignment is, honestly. It's one thing to capture someone's likeness in a drawing, but it's another to severely exaggerate their facial features. You've ever seen those recap cartoons by Cass Vanderpool? I mean, you probably have. He has millions of views. But he does really good caricatures. Honestly, drawing a good caricature can be kind of tricky. Isn't it crazy that you can look at this picture and think, oh yeah, that's Nicolas Cage? Isn't that weird? It's hard to explain how to draw a successful caricature. You just have to try it for yourself. But it's all about exaggeration. You can try it with celebrities or other characters. You could also practice with anyone. My professor recommended earthsworld.com, where you'll find a big collection of candid photographs to use as reference. My caricatures aren't the best. I definitely could have pushed the exaggeration way further. By the way, for every assignment, we had to do 2 of them. Here's my second one. Let me know if you can tell what celebrity this is. Any questions so far? No? Okay, well, okay. Well, you might be wondering, why do we have to draw caricatures in a character design class? Obviously, it's valuable to practice drawing the human body. But if you can then learn how to exaggerate and how to push and pull those human features into different shapes, you can use that skill to design characters that will communicate different feelings to your audience. This is called shape language. Shape language in art and animation is the concept that different shapes communicate different feelings. Circles are soft and friendly. Squares are solid and sturdy. And triangles are pointy and dangerous and bad. I don't know if there's any science behind this, but I'm pretty sure this concept is just built into humans. You can show anyone Geometry Dash, and they will immediately understand that the triangles kill you. The most straightforward example of shape language and character design is the emotions in Inside Out. In my class, we talked about shape language a lot, and it came up constantly, so it's important to know this early on. Our next assignment... Heroes! Whoa! In game development, a hero asset is any asset in the game that the player is going to focus on a lot, like the character you're playing, which is always on screen, or a weapon, or maybe an NPC that interacts with you a lot. These assets are always given way more attention from the artist because they're the parts the audience is going to see the most, and most likely remember. They are the defining elements of the game from a visual standpoint. So in the context of my character design class, the point of the hero assignment isn't necessarily to draw a superhero, but to design a main character, a protagonist, someone memorable and iconic. If you can take a character and zoom out and still recognize them from their silhouette alone, this is very hard to do, by the way. It takes a lot of practice and iteration. Here's what I turned in for the first design. I did this guy, who I imagine is trying to start a rock band. He's a big fan of rock music. He has a signed band t-shirt that he wears and then never washes. A teenage kid with big dreams. I feel like it's giving main character. What do we think? My second hero design, which didn't get as fleshed out, is like this dragon spearman. I think maybe he magically slays dragons with his spear / club thing. I don't think he feels main character-y. He looks more like a sidekick, which was an option for this assignment, by the way. You could do 2 different hero designs, or you could design a hero and a helper, which would be like a sidekick or a side character to the main character. Anyway, whatever. Go crazy. And cut. All right, I think we got it. Good job, guys. You can take 5. Oh, finally. Next up, film and TV. We had to design 1 character as if for a film and 1 for a TV show. Disclaimer. In the animation program I went through, everything was taught through the lens of getting employed in the Western animation industry. If that doesn't resonate with you or align with your goals, that's okay. I'm just saying this now because some of the things we learned in this unit don't apply to the anime industry or the indie scene, for example. That's all, carry on. My biggest takeaway from the film and TV assignment is to know your audience. What is the demographic you're drawing for? Toddlers, teens, adults? I don't think I have to say that character designs for Paw Patrol the movie are going to look a lot different from designs for Love, Death, and Robots. But I guess I just said it. So there you go. Whenever someone would turn in an unsuccessful character design, my professor would sometimes be like, "Who is this for?" I think it's important to have a target audience in mind if you're designing a character for a project that you want other people to consume. Maybe you want to draw a webtoon or create an indie animated series. Consider the type of person that will probably be interested in your project, and maybe that will help you narrow your focus and gear the project towards them. You can draw for yourself and be your own target audience, by the way, so don't get too consumed by this concept. It's just another tip you can file away in that little brain of yours, or big brain of yours. Here's my film and TV designs. For film, I thought of this young girl character who can teleport through these magical books, something you'd see in a Disney or DreamWorks movie for kids. And for TV, I did this funny steampunk guy. Maybe he's like a steampunk detective. Art style wise, I looked to Gravity Falls for inspiration, maybe a bit of Steven Universe. I don't know, I don't have too much of a backstory for these characters, so I kind of just drew until the vibes were good. The biggest difference between characters in film and TV is that TV designs are usually much simpler and easier to animate since TV is typically lower budget. Again, this doesn't always apply. In fact, this probably doesn't apply anymore at all. So, and then the anime industry is a whole different thing. Like, we're gonna move on now. Hey, can we talk? I have to tell you something. This wasn't a character design class. I lied to you. The class was called Visual Development and Character Design. Characters were the main focus, but visual development covers environments, architecture, props, and vehicles. For the vehicles and robots assignment, you could draw a car, a spaceship, a Honda Odyssey. Actually, don't draw a Honda Odyssey. You're supposed to design your own thing. It's a design class. Here's some van designs I did. This is supposed to be in the same world as my hero design. Maybe this is the van he drives with his bandmates, all messy and punk and graffitied. For drawing cars. Okay, please, I beg of you, don't forget to look at reference. Don't forget. Cars have rear view mirrors. Don't forget to draw the rear view mirrors. They have bumpers, chairs, a dashboard. It's these little details that will make your car design feel like a car and not just a rectangle thing with wheels. But you could draw any vehicle for this assignment. The point is to design technology. You don't even have to know anything about technology or engineering. If you're drawing a sci-fi spaceship, you could just add, quote, Greeble. Yes, Greeble. There's a Wikipedia page about Greeble, a term coined by none other than George Lucas himself.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
Greeble is little details, little doodads and thingies that you can add to a spaceship to make it look like a convincing high-tech vehicle. Here's like a basic circle with thingies and like a oval on the side. Now add Greeble. And there you go. It's the Millennium Falcon. You don't have to know how every element works. Like, does anyone know what this thing does? I sure don't. Drawing robots is really fun because you get to combine technology with character design. Here's one of my robot designs. I have no story for him. I just wanted to draw a cute robot. And then I drew this other robot. I had the idea of an evil stalker robot, so I looked at surveillance cameras and used that as inspiration for the design. Animals. It's right behind me, isn't it? For this assignment, draw a character design of an animal. Yep, that's all there is to it. Not like a wild animal, but like something you'd see in Zootopia, like a character. Here's my first one. I did a tortoise who is also a wizard. You've heard me say it a lot, I'm gonna say it again. Make sure you look at reference, because animal anatomy is very different from human anatomy. Usually. In most cases. You know what's funny? My professor was like, please no furries for this one. But this is my video, so go crazy. Draw your persona if you must, if you really have to. Here's my second design. I did a corgi, but I made him old. Like he's seen too much. He's sick of your bull. Next. With villains, notice that many of them have a pointy and angular shape language. You might remember that sharp corners and triangles communicate danger. Sometimes it's very subtle, but you should still be able to pinpoint why certain villain designs feel villainous. So here's my first design. I imagine she's like a fallen angel necromancer. She has potions that she can use to raise the dead or something. I think a good villain design carries a sense of power and authority. Something about their design needs to feel uneasy, not scary necessarily, though they can look scary. Just that something is going on beneath the surface, maybe a sense of mystery or unknownness. If you're ever stuck designing a character like you're not even sure where to begin visually, my professor recommended writing. Write as much as you can about the character, think of specific words to describe them, or write a backstory for them. Once you're in the character's headspace and you've determined what they should feel like, you can transform those feelings into shapes and angles, and eventually you'll have the beginnings of a character design. I had this idea for an evil queen character for my second design, taking inspiration from roses and thorns. I also did this butler guy. He looks pretty sus, but I scrapped it. He's very boring. Alright, we can take a little break. We can take a breather. Okay. This was a quick little in-class exercise we did one day. A good character designer should be able to pick up someone else's art style, so this exercise gave us practice doing that. Our professor showed us concept art from the movie Brave, and instructed us to draw our own character in the same style who might belong in the same world. If you've ever drawn like a Sonic OC, then great, you've already done this assignment. Environments are really fun. Personally, I love drawing backgrounds and stuff, so I liked this assignment. First, we had to draw what our professor called an organic population. An organic population is like a cluster of nature, like a little vignette of plants and trees and rocks and nature. The idea is that if you wanted to design a forest for a project, it would be a lot easier to design a little slice, a little corner of the forest first. You'd have to design all the plants and organic matter that populate the area. The work of Marcel Hampel is a really good example. Here's mine. We had to sketch out 4 of them. I even painted one of them, so here's that. This organic population exercise is also helpful because designing a tree by itself doesn't feel as useful as designing it in context. When you draw clusters of things, it gives you a better idea of the scale. Then we did a larger environment piece, and I had this idea to design a really cool shaped mountain with a little house at the top. This was my first pass, but I wanted to make some changes to the shapes, so here's my second pass with color added. But then someone in my class said this section looked phallic. But then someone in my class said at the top. This was my first pass, but I wanted to make some changes to the shapes, so here's my second pass with color added. But then someone in my class said this section looked phallic. So I changed the shape a little bit and added more details, and here's the final. So yeah, okay. Make sure your design doesn't look phallic. Okay, here's another tip for you. Now is also a good time to bring up another principle that my professor drilled into our heads on day 1. Iteration. Your first pass at a design is probably not going to be your greatest version of that design. So have patience, draw some different versions, try different shapes and colors, and get feedback from others, and by the end of all that, you will most likely have a way better design. All of my designs evolved a lot and had plenty of iterations before I landed on the version I submitted for class. Unless I was lazy that week. But yeah, okay, next. Props? Anybody? Yeah, let's give it up for props. This is a pretty straightforward assignment, just draw some objects. Here's my music-themed prop sheet, some guitars and a drum set, posters. Again, this would be from the same world as this guy. I don't have too much to say about props, just that if your character design involves a prop or two, maybe like a weapon or a backpack, make sure the prop looks good with the character. The prop can also give more insight into who the character is. I imagine this kid is like the lead guitarist in his band, so I made his guitar a crazy, attention-grabbing shape and gave it a neon green strap. Now for the architecture assignment, draw like a building or an interior scene. I designed the interior of the kid's garage. Maybe he has it all set up like a recording studio, with lots of rugs, a PC, band instruments everywhere, and posters. One thing I did on this piece, actually, was I blocked out all the walls and some of the basic shapes in Blender first, and then I drew on top of that. That way I didn't have to freehand the perspective and draw all the perspective lines and stuff, so even if you're a 2D artist, it's worth it to learn 3D software because it can be a really useful tool. Okay, back to characters. If you're someone who likes fashion and designing outfits for your characters, you'll like this one. This assignment is to take one of your previous character designs and draw different outfits that they might wear throughout different parts in the story. The story that lives in your head. I once again used this character for the assignment. I have his default outfit here, and then I designed an outfit he might wear at home in his garage working on music. And then another for when he might be on stage performing. Keep in mind that just like props, clothes say a lot about a character and the type of person they are. Take me for instance, I got some pants, and a green shirt, and that tells you that well, it tells you something, obviously. Last assignment. We finished with monsters. For this, make up your own creature, or some kind of alien, or mythical beast, and design it. Bonus points if it's creepy or scary, because that adds to the challenge. Now that we've done animals and villains and talked about shape language, you should have everything you need to tackle this assignment. Here's my first one. I wanted to draw a big spiky thing. Maybe it stabs things with its carapace. Here's a guy for scale. Now, you might think the monster assignment is oddly specific, but there are concept artists who specialize in creature design, and I quickly realized why that's the case, because working on this assignment was uniquely challenging. After spending all this time drawing mostly human anatomy and proportions, as well as a couple animals, I noticed that designing a new anatomical structure is very different. But one of the tips we were given was to reference real-life creatures when designing your own creature. I came up with the, quote, orb dragon for my second design. I was thinking of a giant bug-like creature that spits pink acid at its prey, and maybe it has a bulbous bioluminescent dump truck. I referenced praying mantis anatomy on this one. And that's it. We're done. That's all. Obviously, there's plenty more to say about every assignment, about anatomy, color theory, storytelling. A lot of these different skills overlap with character design. This video could be 12 hours, if I wanted it to, but obviously not. But hopefully this video gives you a brief rundown of what a character design class looks like, at least the one I took. Comment below if you plan to do any of these assignments. And thanks for watching. Bye!
You've probably used large language model like ChatGPT before. Never the nature of its own existence. This is my latest artwork, Latent Reflection, and here is how I built it.
This is the beginning of how my perfect plan failed. Three unexpected things happened while making Reflection. 1. A random YouTube video I ended up falling in love with started this whole thing. 2. A mistake I made completely ruined everything. And 3. A crazy idea saved the day. This was my epic plan. On the top, you can type in any topic you want. On the right, this is where ChatGPT is going to type its response. The display will be whatever this display thing is called. On the left side, we'll have our controls and the animation. Coding part was easy. I asked, and it gave me. Of course, I had to nudge it here and there to get the aesthetics right, but still, it was surprisingly easy. But, of course, it didn't all go smoothly. I'm gonna place my animation right here, right above the buttons here, and hopefully it'll interact with ChatGPT. This is my animation plan. There are 5 stages in total. Intro, idle, reflect idle, and reflect outro. And this is what our character is gonna do. There are multiple stages in this reflection process before the user hits reflect. After the user hits reflect, ChatGPT is going to think, then land on it.
Hey, I'm I love kids!
Once we've done the computer graphics on the screen, the computer, with a ballpoint pen and a mechanical hand, draws what was on the screen onto an animation piece of paper. And it'll come out with a drawing that looks like this. And with a new piece of paper, I'll put on top of this, and I'll draw Basil running for his life on the gears.
I can draw Sinnoh after this. Or maybe a chibi one beside him. Sinnoh. bro, I'm drawing with a tablet. I did draw something with mouse before I bought the tablet.
So it makes a nice hybrid between computer graphics and character animation.
Hybrid animation, the blending of 3D computer-generated imagery and traditional hand-drawn cartoons. It's a technique that's been around for quite a while now. The Great Mouse Detective released in 1986, and it's often credited as the first notable example of it. But when it comes to discourse on the internet, the term hybrid animation didn't really pop up until recent years. And there's a very good reason for that. This movie was not the first use of CGI in a cartoon. In fact, it's not even the first use of CGI in a Disney cartoon. But what The Great Mouse Detective represented was a leap forward. It proved to Hollywood directors and the general movie-going audience of 1986 that computer graphics were more than just a gimmick. At least it could have, if anybody could tell it was there, but hey, that was always the goal. Audiences weren't supposed to notice. The critics could tell that something was better about this movie, but it wasn't entirely clear to them why. In Roger Ebert's highly positive review, he stated, "Computers have taken most of the drudgery and much of the expense out of animation, and the result is a movie like The Great Mouse Detective, which looks more fully animated than anything in some 30 years." And he was completely wrong. Well, okay, the movie did look pretty incredible, but it wasn't because computers magically made life easier. If anything, they made things significantly more challenging for the animators, but the results speak for themselves.
We could then move through the set just like a live action camera could do, or even more like a helicopter can do. So when the characters are running like this up the gear, the camera's panning and moving along with them in tremendous kind of shots that aren't normally possible in an animated picture.
CGI was only used during the climax in the clock tower, which comprised just under 2 minutes of the total runtime. And aside from the gears, the rest of the movie was animated by hand, drawn with pencil and paper, with physical ink and paint on animation cells. It was about as old school as it got. At the time, this was Disney's second most expensive animated film ever produced and had been in development for over 4 years. To say that the drudgery and expense was taken out of animation goes to show that most people didn't really understand where computers fit in the artistic process. In Ebert's defense, this was 1986, a time where the vast majority of people had never used a computer, so the marketing gimmick of computer animation was just futuristic enough to go right over everybody's heads. And you would think that after nearly 40 years, general audiences would finally understand how artists and animators use computers, but these tools are more misunderstood now than they've ever been. Hybridizing CGI into hand-animated movies became a staple technique for studios throughout the rest of the 80s and 90s, but the goal was always to try and make it invisible, to make the two styles match as closely as possible, so it makes a lot of sense that the layman would have a hard time noticing it. There isn't a single agreed-upon definition for hybrid animation, but as I see it, it's simply the blending of 2D and 3D techniques into one piece of media. Evidently, it's been around for quite a while, but people are treating it like it's a recent development. And if you read the title of this video, you probably already know why that is. Hey, we're gonna get to you, just give me a minute. Or 7-ish. So let's go back to 1986. Even if critics and audiences didn't understand why, the general consensus back then, and even today, was that The Great Mouse Detective was pretty good.
Hey fellas, I'll take all my blues.
Why, yes, that is a burlesque show that devolves into a drunken bar fight in a G-rated Disney cartoon. After 2 back-to-back box office losses, the General consensus back then.
I wrote a blog post a while ago about why I video games, because this is what it does. It appeals to like the male fantasy.
Ta-da! Is this supposed to be when we first boarded the tram?
Uh-huh. I drew it. It's for you.
So there I was, minding my own business, when suddenly this clip comes across my social media feeds.
Diana?
Diana!
And the caveman part of my brain just lit up. The first feeling was the obvious "aw" moment, but then I was hit by this more powerful masculine feeling. One that makes you feel almost militant and like you would go to war with anybody who dares to threaten this precious child. And to be fair, women do have a similar feeling.
I've only had Arlo for a day and a half, but if anything happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself.
You had people swearing to burn Capcom down to the ground if anything happened to this character. And I had no idea that this game was even a thing. It apparently had been developing for a very long time, it got delayed once or twice, and suddenly it was available. The game is called Pragmata, and the story revolves around a man named Hugh, a system auditor, sent to the moon with a team to figure out why a lunar base suddenly went quiet. The Doom scenario alone already got me. A moonquake happens, and the base's AI, Edis, uses the robots under its control to kill the rest of his team, leaving him alone and injured. He's soon rescued by an android who looks like a 6-year-old girl named...
I am DI-03367, a state-of-the-art
Hang on a second.
Who he names...
How about we call you... Diana?
And the two set off to solve the mystery around the fall of the lunar base and get back to Earth. And I'm over here like day one purchase. But immediately, and I mean immediately, people wanted to ruin it. I think it's important to point out right here that the negativity around the game did not come first. Gamers expressed joy around the naming scene, automatically swearing to protect Diana at all costs.
Get your hands off my daughter, bitch! I'll kill you!
And that is when the accusations started. Something about gamers feeling joy causes physical pain to these people. The most ridiculous accusation was that the only reason men wanted to play this game was that it scratched some kind of nefarious itch. And this includes being a PDF file. So basically, if you're a man and you want to play this game, you are the worst kind of person imaginable. My immediate thought was, wow, what a fatherless take. Like, why is that the first place your head goes when you see this? And if you go back and you read a lot of the negative comments that went viral, they weren't necessarily about the game itself. They were actually directed more towards men in general. Specifically men and their relation to children. The overarching message seemed to be that men and children have no business associating with each other in any capacity. Nothing good can come from it. Any man's interest in a child can be nothing but sinister. Pragmata is a game that allows horrible men to live out the fantasy of protecting a small girl at great personal risk. Absolute villainy. And they sold 1 million copies, so that's a lot of bad men. Now, a lot of the people throwing this accusation around actually referenced a real event where the Pragmata subreddit was closed down because Redditors were posting stuff that would make you want to gas up the wood chipper. Let me be very clear about something. You should never define a situation based on Reddit's take. Okay, Reddit and real life are two separate dimensions. Now I want to pause here for a second because I think one of the bigger finger wags that were being directed at not just men but everyone was that you shouldn't be feeling anything for Diana at all because she is ultimately a robot. Yes, she's an android. No, it doesn't matter. Have you ever heard of the breakfast question? It describes a hypothetical scenario where prisoners with varying IQs asked a simple question. What if you had not had breakfast today? In this hypothetical story, higher IQ prisoners gave responses like, well, I'd probably be hungry, or maybe my mood would be worse, or I'd feel tired. But lower IQ prisoners couldn't wrap their heads around this scenario, and would typically respond with, but I did have breakfast. Right, but imagine if you hadn't had breakfast.
Gruel. Sandwiches. Gruel omelets. Nothing but gruel.
But this same principle could be applied to people talking about Diana. But it's a robot! Yes, but the character has all the necessary qualities in order for you to make an emotional connection to it as a parent would a child. But it's a robot!
A random girl wanders into a random bookstore in Manhattan on a random Tuesday. She is a normal girl by all accounts, pretty but not too pretty, well-dressed, likely well-educated, maybe a grad student. Someone you might like to strike up a conversation with if you saw her in your bookstore. Joe Goldberg certainly thinks so. Throughout the first season of You, we follow Joe's, let's call it, pursuit of this girl. Initially, they kind of hit it off. They flirt under the guise of their taste in literature. They poke fun about other customers. They're clearly into each other. But notably, they don't exchange contact info. Though Joe does have her full name.
Guinevere? Everyone just calls me Beck.
And then nothing bad happens, and they end up together happily ever after. If only. Joe goes full stalker, which you should never do. Looking up someone on social media is 1/4 stalker. We've all been there. No. Joe here not only looks up her socials, he starts piecing shit together. Family members, college attended, previous boyfriends. This is now half stalker. But look, reverse Google image search. Oh shit, that's her address. He's in her apartment now. 3/4 stalker. All we're missing is, yep, there it is. He's stealing her underwear. Full stalker. This is all in the first episode, by the way. Having completed his evolution, Joe actually stalks her, and using what I can only describe as evil mastermind Riz, he manipulates her life in subtle ways in an attempt to get her to fall in love with him. It's fascinating to watch, and while you don't necessarily root for him, you can't help but lean in and think, is he actually going to pull this off? And through the entire series, this outlandish behavior only gets worse and evolves into, well, we won't go into details about what he does just yet to respect spoilers, but let's just say, But what's absolutely fascinating about You isn't the show itself, because yeah, the show has its flaws. Sitting at 5 seasons, it's probably 2 seasons too long. There are some conveniences in the plot to keep things going. The writing is hit or miss, but ultimately, thanks to some incredible acting on the part of Penn Badgley and a few others, this show manages to be embarrassingly entertaining. Like, embarrassing for you as you watch it because you shouldn't be enjoying it, but you are. And in fact, many people enjoy it in a completely different way. This is what we are here to discuss today. Joe Goldberg is a villain. This man is indefensibly evil, and if you've seen the show, you will co-sign that statement. He is scum of the earth, a parasite, a stain that can't be bleached out of the people he interacts with, and yet we watch him. We root for him. Many of us lust over him because of these things. And this is what I want to talk about today, because the same could be argued of Makima in Chainsaw Man. The same could be argued of Daemon Targaryen in House of the Dragon, Morinth in Mass Effect, Virgil in DMC, Monica in Doki Doki, Kafka, Himiko Toga, Azula, Zenin Ryerson, Lady Dimitrescu. Why is evil so hot? That is the question I pose to you today, and I promise it is a question with a deeper answer than it all started with Helga St. Clair in Atlantis. Because fictional characters are easy to admire. It's obvious why a character like Kratos is so well liked. He's tough, he's got a past, he has regrets, which makes him relatable, and it's because of his grit and stoic nature that when he shows kindness, those moments shine the most. A soundly written hero in fiction. Is this not the type of character we should obsess over? Why does Joe Goldberg perhaps get just as many flowers simply because Penn Badgley is good looking? Or is it that simple? Why have literal serial killers garnered fervid cult followings while Hollywood has always struggled to make folks truly love Superman? Why are villains these days so much more attractive than maybe they once were? Why do we often more easily forgive characters if they're attractive? What does it say about us if we do? I'm here to give my best answer to these questions. I've got some psych research, I've got some counterexamples, I've got several hear me outs and I can fix hers lined up to deeply analyze, and hopefully we can have some fun reaching a conclusion in the process. So if you'd like to get comfy and grab some popcorn, that would be perfect. While you do that, I'll knock out my sponsor read, and then we'll get salacious and giggle about hot villains. Do you remember the Pit of 100 Trials in Paper Mario? If you never played it, it was this super grueling gauntlet that invited you to not just fight the main battles, but to really flex your strategic chops against increasingly tough enemies. It was totally optional, of course, but super rewarding if you ever decided to take it on. It reminds me of the Training Grounds, a new feature boot.dev has devised that lets you grind infinite coding challenges before you move on to your next course. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What exactly is boot.dev? Well, if you like the challenge of turn-based RPGs and you've always been interested in learning to code, this is for you. Boot.dev is probably the best way to learn back-end web development if you grew up a gamer, because it formats courses using modern game design. Their philosophy is twofold. You can't learn if you get bored, and you can't get good at what you learn unless you're challenged. With Boot, you'll learn how to build real projects like you would on a job and forge your skills with real experience, as well as on-screen experience, achievements, quest completions, boss fights, even a leaderboard if it'll keep you motivated. If this is something you're interested in, go take the demo. It's free, and all content is free to watch and read in guest mode if you like to see what you're up against. Maybe this is for you. Maybe this could be the start of your career. The Pit of 100 Trials starts on the first floor. Will you rise to the challenge? If you're in, be sure to use my code DarylTalksGames at checkout to get 25% off your English on the screen for 6 frames. In this video, running 60 frames per second, that's a tenth of a second, 100 milliseconds. That is how fast your brain can see a stranger's face and make a judgment about it. And this is critical to consider when we meet a stranger in fiction. When you see Aerith's face for the first time, there is a strong possibility that those big green eyes, the flowing hair, the soft skin blossoms into several unrelated character traits. Perhaps you infer, based completely on appearance, that she is kind and considerate. Heck, if you met someone this attractive in reality, you might do the same thing. This is due to something called the halo effect, which is when one nice trait about a stranger, because we don't know much about them, sort of fills in all the blanks and bleeds into your expectations of them. The halo effect has evidence across cultures. One study found that jurors were less likely to find an attractive person guilty of a crime. Others found that attractive people are typically rated as having more positive personality traits and higher intelligence. Studies in educational settings find that teachers tend to have higher expectations of students they found more attractive. Attractive students get better grades if they're in person and not taking classes online where the teacher never sees them. These are all real studies. And it's for these reasons that a person simply being nice to look at on screen is massively important to their part in the story. And on a subconscious level, I think we all understand this. At its simplest form, a character's appearance is how the audience can make a quick judgment. If someone looks like this, okay, they look nice. I think I'll root for them. If someone looks like this, that's sinister. I would not trust them around my kids. Ariel is skinny and glimmering. Ursula is obese and sickly. Luke is young and starry-eyed. Palpatine is an ashy old raisin. Is the classic evil wears black, good wears white. Stories aren't just told through dialogue and blocking. Because we only get so much time to spend with these characters and so much dialogue, how they look should also communicate something critical about them. Auron in Final Fantasy X, for example, is very mysterious early on, and to express that, you not only get his cryptic dialogue, but you also note that strange mannerism of leaving his arm inside his coat and hanging his hand out the front. Even if you don't know that this is a nod to the old Ronin tradition of hiding their non-dominant arm as an act of remorse over a previous dishonor, note how he doesn't have it hanging like this in flashbacks before things went down, and also how Itachi and Naruto does the same thing. But even if you don't get the reference, this little idiosyncrasy immediately adds something to your impression of him. It's nonverbal information and deepens the mystery of his character. Another worth mentioning is Kaine in Near Replicant. Yes, she's pretty, and yes, she is, well, let's just say she is not doing the arm hang thing. But despite what you might initially think of what she looks like or what Weiss thinks,
Speak the truth, hussy.
Book? Shut up.
once you get a little deeper in the game, you realize that this isn't fan service.
I wrote a blog post a while ago about why I video games, because this is
If you're a lover, you gotta be a fighter.
Growing up in the 90s, I was convinced I was living through the cartoon golden age. Dexter's Laboratory, Ed, Ed and Eddie, Rugrats. I mean, remember Recess? It was awesome! Then YouTube happened. And in 2007, without realizing it, I switched off Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, and Disney Channel forever, thinking, hey, I've already seen the best animation has to offer. What could I...
Based on the kind of videos you guys like, one thing is clear: story-driven games and murder. So let's take a look at one of the best examples of that genre, Undertale. And to celebrate nearly 10 years of the game being out, here's the entire lore in just 30 minutes. Ready, set, go. Undertale begins in a world similar to ours, similar in almost everything except that monsters coexist with humans. Yeah, you can see where this is going. You see, monsters and humans don't like each other, and according to history, that means only one thing: racism. You see, the world of Undertale revolves around souls. In this world, human souls are far more powerful than monster souls, as they have the power to persist after death, called determination. But monsters have the power to absorb human souls to become enormously strong. This basically starts a world war in which the humans absolutely demolish the monsters. It seems humans are quite accurate to as they are in real life, as the next reasonable step is apartheid, as they lock the monsters underneath a mountain called Mount Ebit, in which a seal is placed that uses soul power. You can easily get in, but to get out you need to absorb both the souls of a human and a monster combined. Now, you may be saying, what if a human falls in by accident? Luckily, we don't have to guess, as one day some stupid child named Kara decides to go cave diving and falls face first into the underground. Falling into the underground injured, she calls out for help and is quickly assisted by Azrael, the son of Asgore, king of the underground, and his wife, Toriel. Now you may be thinking that because there are monsters nearby, Kara would start squaring up and getting ready for World War II, but instead, Kara and Azrael become best friends. Kara basically gets adopted by his family, and the underground is filled with a sense of hope. Hope? Why? Well, Kara, seeing the underground, dreams of one day breaking the barrier fully, allowing monsters and humans to coexist peacefully. However, that dream is cut short because Kara eats a butterscotch pie. Now, you may be saying, oh, that sounds lovely, but this butterscotch pie is made with buttercup flowers, which are quite literally poisonous to human beings. So Kara becomes really sick, like terminally ill, and Kara's last wish is to be able to see the golden flowers back at her home village in the surface one day. As Kara passes away, it's about time that we recall that soul stuff I was talking about earlier. Azrael basically absorbs Kara's soul, and with their combined souls, they exit the barrier to fulfill Kara's final wish. Rather than being embraced, as they go up to the top, they are attacked by the village of humans. Kara, in a fit of rage, wants to kill the humans attacking, but Azrael resists and holds back from fighting them. In the end, this results in both of them dying, as this Kara-Azrael amalgamation make their way back to the underground, where their combined dust scatters across the very flowers that Kara fell down in the first place. Not knowing what to do, the kingdom scrambles to try and find a fix. Remember that determination thing I told you about earlier? It's the power that allows souls to stay alive after death that is present in humans. The royal scientist Alphys decides that to try and revive Azrael, they could inject pure determination into the flowers, and hopefully the dust scattered across the flowers will stir to life. It works, but not in the way you would have imagined. Azrael basically incarnates into a yellow sentient flower with all of Azrael's memories. You might be saying, oh, that's cute, it's a cute flower. Well, guess what? You're wrong. Azrael now lacks both a human or a monster soul, which basically turns Azrael evil, now taking the form of Flowey. I promise you, he's more dangerous than he looks. Anyway, because of the death of his son, Asgore is distraught, and his once dream of cooperation fades away. From now on, no matter the scenario, any human that enters the underground is killed. Unfortunately, 6 souls follow the place of Kara, and eventually his goal is to collect 7 total souls to break the silly barrier for good and destroy all humans. Toriel, his wife, is absolutely disgusted by Asgore and decides to leave him, focusing on making sure that any human that falls into the ruins is safe. Now you may be saying, this is boring. When is Sans Undertale coming in? He's coming, I promise. Just give me a few minutes. Now that we're all caught up on the backstory, it's important to understand that Undertale has 3 major endings: a pacifist run, a neutral run, and a genocide run, each of which largely changes the ending to the story. Now, I'm gonna be honest, there's like some crazy Doctor Strange Tenet alternate realities going on here, as the
Growing up in the 90s, I was
We interrupt this program to bring you
nightmares.
So I was lucky enough to grow up during a golden age of children's television. We really had it all. Some of the funniest, coolest, and most heartwarming shows that many of us have thoroughly enjoyed for 20 years and counting. And while there were many lighthearted favorites to put on after school, I wouldn't be able to sit here today and tell you that we truly had it all if this era didn't also include some of the dark side too, right? The ones that air after the sun goes down, when your fear of monsters under the bed starts to come out.
You're not perfect.
Luckily for us, in the late 90s and early 2000s, there was, in fact, a banger of an introduction to horror included in this era that for many of us was actually too scary to watch. Courage the Cowardly Dog was not your average children's cartoon, to say the least. While many kids' shows included a cast of a few friends, a family, often a school, and a lighthearted tone, this show completely rejected those tropes and denied us that comfortable familiarity. In this world, there's no friends, no school, no neighbors. There's just Courage, who acts as a stand-in for a child, with the lovely Muriel and her awful husband Eustace, who all quite literally live in the middle of nowhere.
right there. Nowhere.
There's a lot of little subtle details that help just make this show feel extra uncomfortable, like the fact that we can never see the parents' eyes. It's kind of like how in Tom and Jerry the parents' heads are always cut off. There's also the fact that we don't have a fun and catchy theme song like most of these other shows, but instead we just got this high-pitched voice on the TV interrupting what we were watching.
We interrupt this program to bring you Courage the Cowardly Dog Show!
In this world, there's extraterrestrial visitors and supernatural disasters regularly. Basically, imagine if you lived in a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. You might have fears of UFOs and aliens, things like that. All those types of fears, yeah, those come true all the time here. Their house is constantly being destroyed or abducted or relocated against their will. This world is flooded with abstract terror, sinister surrealism, cold sweat fever dreams, and utterly diabolical villains.
And tempt me to be naughty.
In this world, the parental figures don't save you, they need saving.
Oh, Courage, help me.
In this world, something bad is always happening. And on occasion, there is no happy ending. So why is it then that all these years later, the show is still so beloved by the very fans that were traumatized by it?
My favorite response, and I've heard this far more than once, is, "You really were the head writer for Courage the Cowardly Dog? Wow, that show f***ed me up so bad. Thank you. Thank you."
Courage the Cowardly Dog, as I've mentioned and even made a whole video on, is one of my favorite shows of all time. I think it is the best cartoon ever made.
It's in my personal Hall of Fame for media that actually managed to traumatize me. Like, this actually fucked me up.
Maybe it's because it counterbalances its darkness very well with zany absurdity. Maybe it's because of how cute this little dog is trotting his way through the nightmares and celebrating the little victories along the way. Maybe it's because underneath all of that terror, it's actually got some really sentimental themes threaded throughout and knitted with love in every stitch. Because in fact, the show wasn't just horror, it was comedy horror. It actually really delicately balances its darkness with lightheartedness. And you need those moments of coming up for air to be able to keep venturing back into the Darkness, something that we might get to do later if we're lucky. There's a lot of fantastic voice acting and sound bites that this show brings, and you're going to be hearing a lot of them throughout this video and then probably sprinkled throughout my future videos because
it's simply too good.
First of all, the screams this dog would make. Like, the primary feeling you get from watching this show is definitely the horror. But the more you watch it, the more those screams will start to ground you in reality that it's an inherently funny show, too. Obviously, I don't like that bad things keep happening to this poor dog, but when they do, I can't help but have a laugh at it.
Where's Muriel?
Or even like when things start to get real bad, sometimes we might get a good. And they were always really inspired in how Courage screamed, weren't they? Like how they animated him. Sometimes his teeth would pop out. Sometimes his eyes would pop out. Sometimes he'd scream through his eyes. Sometimes he'd scream his skin off. Sometimes it'd cut to a different shot where he'd go up to the moon and scream the moon in tiny little pieces. Sometimes he'd scream through a trumpet. Sometimes we'd look at his tongue and it would have 6 smaller mouths screaming. It truly feels like they never wanted to animate him screaming the same way twice, and I really appreciate that commitment to originality. And while we're talking about great noises, sound bites, and vocal stems, we have to talk about the noises that Eustace would make. My personal favorite is, like sometimes he just says, but other times it's like the confusion overwhelms his brain and amasses into a critical hit. Another all-timer is,
Get away from me! Get away from me!
Eustace really is a piece of shit throughout the show, and he'll often abuse Courage, get punished by Muriel rightfully, and then candidly ask,
What did I do?
And of course we see this one every time in the intro theme as well as throughout the show. He'll pull out this big scary green mask to scare Courage with a
Ooga booga booga!
That mask was originally going to be a gun, and he would actually shoot Courage like they would in Looney Tunes. But then they ended up changing it to make it more child-friendly. But comedy aside, this show really was the intro to horror for a generation. Not just in the way it portrayed such horrifying images, but in the way it paid tribute to classic horror films. Isn't it cool when new artists tip their hats to the artists that they grew up with? It's like how Hanumankind used Project Pat's flow in his new mega hit Big Dogs. And did it in a way that actually honors the original. What a wonderful cascade of history. Art's a beautiful thing, you guys. That's why this whole channel is about appreciating it. Courage tips its hat to The Exorcist for inspiring it, and then future artists would watch Courage and tip their hat to that for inspiring them. It's like how the song Crisis comes from Courage, and that song would later be sampled by artists like Josiah. Speaking of artists, there's a lot of questions I have for them. There's a lot of things I want to find out here. Like we said before, how is it that they made a show that traumatized a generation but still won their hearts in the end? Who is Courage? What is Courage? And how is it different than Fear? Why is Eustace so abusive? What does it mean to be a hero and what does it mean to be a villain? In other words, what does this all mean? Well, in order to answer all those questions surrounding this traumatizing masterpiece, we need to dive into the minds of those who made it.
Go on, make yourself right at home.
First and foremost, Courage the Cowardly Dog wouldn't exist if it weren't for the mad scientist that is John R. Dilworth.
Hello, everybody. This is John R. Dilworth, and the R stands for Rumpelstiltskin.
It is his insane mind that we have to thank for scaring the shit out of us as kids.
Every single thing was orchestrated by me and my insane mind.
The first thing you need to know about John Dilworth is that he himself is just as much of a cartoon character as any of his creations.
We will see Chicken from Outer Space, the origins of Courage the Cowardly Dog, life in transition. We will see Dirty Birdie. Oh, so many things. And then the most horrific Cowardly Dog cartoons.
His veins pulse with rampant chaos. He's theatrical and animated, yet philosophical and profound.
You know, I said, hey, John, how come you can't see Muriel and Eustace's eyes behind the glasses? He says, because they're spiritually blind.
And he's genuinely opened my eyes to a new level of appreciation for the art form of cartoons.
Absolute bedlam reigned in these studios where cartoon characters survived the most absurd things. You could rip your eyes out and put them back in, and it's not a worry. I mean, you can do this. You can stretch your tongue out, roll it back up, and it could beat against your mouth and you'll be fine. You can get run over by a giant truck back and forth and then walk out flat and then you're back to normal. It was magic. You could just experience anything. It's really quite an experience for the mind.
I think the two key influences that John credits the most are this era of cartoons, and he specifically names Tex Avery.
Major influence is Tex Avery, who was part of what they call the golden age of Hollywood American cartoons, the late 30s and 40s and very early 50s.
As well as this silent film era, particularly the work of Charlie Chaplin.
If you look at Charlie Chaplin, this is cartoon, this is animation, this is performance art, and he is among my greatest influences. Even today in schools, animators study the way Charlie Chaplin or these performers from a very early period, the way that they performed.
Abbott and Costello, they were a ridiculous comedy team, but they made serious horror films. These influenced me. That you can have stupid business going on while death is beating down the door.
If you've seen my Kendrick video, you know that one lens I like to use to view an artist's growth is this metaphor of climbing the mountain, which illustrates how one must focus on both study and practice in order to maximize improvement. But there's another more popular metaphor that aligns quite well with this one that I find very relevant to talk about here. It's Ira Glass's closing the gap metaphor. You heard of this one? Only some of you?
Jeez. Guess I'm just gonna have to cook.
All of us who do creative work, we get into it because we have good taste. Do you know what I mean? Like, you want to make TV because you love TV. You know what I mean? Because there's stuff that you just, like, love. But it's like there's a gap. That for the first couple years that you're making stuff, what you're making isn't so good, okay? It's not that great. It's trying to be good. It has ambition to be good, but it's not quite that good. But your taste is still killer. And your taste is good enough that you can tell that what you're making is kind of a disappointment to you. A lot of people never get past that phase. A lot of people at that point, they quit. You gotta know it's totally normal. And the most important possible thing you could do is do a lot of work. Do a huge volume of work. Put yourself on a deadline, because it's only by actually going through a volume of work that you're actually going to catch up and close that gap. And the work you're making will be as good as your ambitions.
And it's true. Any artist that you admire for their wonderful art has made a high volume of lesser art in order to get to those miracles. It's once again like this image of the plate juggler that I mentioned before. This is the war of art, a subject that many artists have spoken about. Iterate, iterate, iterate. I believe it's precisely for these reasons that Mr. Dilworth is so consistent with his answer when everyone asks him what led him to animation.
So John, how did you get into animation?
With a pencil.
So how did you design,
With a pencil, man.
Well, how did you...
What made you get into animation?
A pencil.
Did anything, inspire you to, just get in there?
How did you get into animation, even during your youth?
Well, it all started with a pencil, John. Pencil. I think it was a number 2.
You might think he's trolling, and he definitely is aware that he's being kind of silly, but there's something very real that he's getting at.
Tell us how it started.
I don't want to occupy too much time on these details, but Courage was really started with, seriously, one of these.
Yeah.
That's right. So anybody can do it.
So an artist, like John for example, starts out with their pencil and begins making things over and over for years, refining not just their skills, but their ideas too. So John started out with some pretty wild stuff.
Fungus, do you have belly bloat?
At this stage in his career, John often reflects on the evolution of recurring character types in his work.
Was it always meant to be an elderly couple and a dog, or...?
Oh, yeah. There's always a 3, for instance. A female of some higher intelligence, but that's off somehow. A very unsympathetic male character. And then this third, innocent.
It's really interesting that something in his soul always wanted to get these ideas out. Thankfully, he iterated throughout the years to eventually get his skills and ideas refined enough to the point to make Courage.
You know that short informed Courage. It's an early version of Eustace, Muriel, and Courage. You could see the evolution of Hamilton in Courage. Hamilton was a more introverted character, much more sensitive. But Courage is more active now. He evolved to action despite fear.
So it is through this continuous learning and iteration that one not only climbs the mountain of artistic ability, but closes the gap between the amazing ideas in their mind and the actual things that said artistic ability allows them to create. You climb the mountain to close the gap. It's an infinite game with an infinite prize of having more and more effectiveness in bringing your ideas to life.
Do you feel like you wrote your best verse yet?
My best verse yet? Nope.
Damn.
Nope. I'm always searching for that. Always searching for that next thing that, inspired me within writing. It could be another word, it could be another concept, another song, another album, but it's just a challenge. It's just a search to write that perfect verse or that perfect song.
God damn it, art is cool. And thus, John R. Dilworth became a fully evolved Pokemon and was now ready to take his big idea to the big networks.
I went to the studios, pitched my cartoon idea in my spacesuit. I'm going to reenact my successful pitch to the Cartoon Network.
It's called Courage, the Cowardly Dog. And it's about an orphan dog rescued by a nice old lady, Muriel Bag, who lives with her farmer in the middle. Shut up! Sit down! But creepy things happen in nowhere, and it's up to Courage to save the farm! Ah!
But given the approval of the concept, now it came time for execution, and in order to do that, John needed the Avengers to assemble. Okay, voice actors. What does this little dog sound like anyway? John searched tirelessly through everyone in New York City, but nothing was clicking. Hope was looking dim. Enter Marty Grabstein.
John Dilworth, he's developing this new show called Courage the Cowardly Dog. He's listened to every voiceover artist in the city and can't seem to arrive at a decision. Over 300 voices. I went in and just somehow went with my instinctive interpretation of what this character might be sounding like, and he fell in love with it. I am convinced that John was not sure exactly how Courage was supposed to sound until I came in. And he goes, that was really funny, but okay, how about this, Marty? Try it where you take your natural, ridiculously gravelly, scratchy voice and pitch it up here like this. Go like that. And I said, okay. And he goes, that's it.
I do think Marty's voice ended up perfect for the show.
Yay! Oh no, not more.
And after consuming all 102 episodes with my eyeballs pressed against the monitor and volume on full blast, I do agree with her decision to actually reduce Courage's dialogue after about halfway through season 1.
I think we did maybe 6 episodes before Mike Lazo suggested that we should do without it. And I agreed, because in the original short film, Courage did not speak. But doing a series, it's scary to think that you're going to rely on a star that doesn't say anything, I mean, it was a good move.
I think so too. While I do like these little moments where Courage is saying something, like, for example, in the first few episodes, I like this running joke of,
I have a bad feeling about this. Well, my name is Ivana, and it's not. Something smells fishy, or my name's Schlinkenhofer. And it's not. Oh, there's something wrong here. Or my name is Jose Santos de Guatemala. And it's not.
And I don't even mind this episode where he's having a full-on therapy session with the Shadow, but I think the bulk of the episodes function fantastically with action speaking louder than words. And in that way, it makes it a very unique show that your main character can't talk most of the time. He'll still chime in and say something every now and then.
Oh no! What do I do? What do I do?
But I think used sparingly, it's actually much more effective. It all comes back to what John was inspired by to make art in the first place, and how he wanted to take that inspiration and put it back into his own thing.
What I wanted him to do was be more like a Charlie Chaplin and use his body as language.
Letting the events themselves play out with just a bit of dialogue from Muriel, Eustace, or that episode's villain works phenomenally. Speaking of villains, as we've mentioned before, your heroes can only shine as bright as the villains are dark. And so we're going to need some killer voices on board for them too. Enter Paul Scheffler.
Well, I went into an audition at Don Case, and they were looking for the character of Katz, which was this really sophisticated looking character. And I thought, maybe I'll try the voice of James Mason for this character. It felt right. And if anyone knows, there's an old British actor who used to talk like this. He had a very beautiful voice like this,
Has anyone ever told you that you overplay your various roles rather severely, Mr. Kaplan?
I'm quite tired of second place. Second place is no place as far as I'm concerned.
John cast me on the basis of that. And so I came in and did the episode, and I thought, well, that was great. That was fun.
So Paul was pretty much every other freaking voice on the show. He's a jack of all trades.
And while we're at it, we're gonna need some killer themes for these villains too. We need some scary music to help set the tone every time they enter a scene or when they're doing something insane.
I'm gonna experiment on you with some of my newest products.
Sean, he would come in and he'd say, you know, I kind of like this here, I kind of like this sound here, but he would always accompany by, oh. He was so excitable. He was so hilarious. He would often describe a feeling rather than a kind of music. You know, he'd say, I want this to be like really dark, man, really dark. It's scary, really scary.
The network is going to order a bunch of episodes to air, so we need to bring in some talented writers who can tune their frequency to John's vision and then write for it as if it's their own.
I believe the primary element to all of this is writing, being able to communicate the story, whatever the story is.
Enter David Stephen Cohen.
You know, it was very much me getting in sync with how John was twisting things, and I was becoming happily twisted.
Shout out to the What's in My Head podcast for landing interviews with so many of these artists and producers. Their conversations very much helped my research and has resultantly improved the quality of this video. So go check them out for a whole lot more interviews of creators of these shows from this same golden era that we're talking about here. And in my eyes, one of the most important people involved in the show as a producer is Linda Semensky. I believe Linda is a shining example of what a film producer should be, as she ultimately stands for all the things that will benefit the art first and foremost.
Like a book editor. My job was to do the best possible version of this person's idea. I was helping them to do it by just basically looking out for them back at the network and explaining the goals of the network to the people at the show.
In the business of art, there's an infinite push and pull between the two. You want to maximize artistic quality, and you have to deliver things on time to make money. And neither would thrive without the other. There must be a balance. But it really can feel like a constant back and forth between the business and the creative.
Because I wanted to do the opposite of what everyone before me had done. You know, it's like you read all these stories about, you know, how tough the executives were. And I always thought, well, I'm just going to be on the side of the animators because that seems like the winning approach. You know, I always felt like, you know, I was there to defend the people making the cartoons. And I was happy to do that.
9-second applause.
It takes a skilled producer like Linda who knows when to get things done and when to remind ourselves that, in fact, a deadline is just a made-up date on a calendar, and that at the end of the day, nobody really cares that your thing came out X days or weeks late. The only thing that really matters is if they'll look back on it fondly for the rest of time.
And I always used to joke around about all the shows and say, I don't think they give prizes for best on time schedule. You know, I think it really all comes down to, will they stand the test of time? And if they need a little extra time to do that, we can do that.
When a piece of art is great, nobody will give a flying if it came out a few days late. Don't believe me? You know I'm a huge Kendrick Lamar fan. When he came out with The Heart Part 4 just before his 2017 album Damn, he epically ended the song with,
"Y'all got till April the 7th to get your shit together,"
implying that that's exactly when the album would drop. It was so hype, and he did the same thing with The Heart Part 3 just before Good Kid Mad City.
"When you let hip-hop die on October 22nd.
But guess what? This time in 2017, just before Damn, he actually pushed it back a week. Damn actually came out on April 14th, 2017. How could the great and powerful Kendrick Lamar go against his word? He prophesized the date. How could he push it back a week? Because here we are 7 years later, and no one remembers that it got pushed back a week, but everyone remembers that Damn was an amazing album, and it still is to this day. So Linda's 100% right. When art is published, it is immortalized as it is forever. So do it right, even if it takes the extra few days, to make sure that the way that it is forever is something that you're really proud of. You're doing the Lord's work, Linda. Seriously, this woman is one of the guiding forces behind this golden era I talked about growing up with.
When I look at your resume, everything you worked on was hit after hit after hit after hit after hit.
Hit after hit after hit is right. And they even paid tribute to her with a sitar that she played. They have Muriel playing it in several scenes throughout the show. So now that we've met some of the key figures behind the scenes that made Courage a reality, now it's time to meet the key figures in the scenes that made Courage horrifying. Villains are the most important thing in a horror show, right? Even if not people, but supernatural forces, there has to be some force that brings about darkness on the main cast, and Courage has tons of them. This show is a goldmine of villains. The one that most fans will be quick to recognize and recall is undoubtedly King Ramses.
King Ramses' curse. It did immediately remind me of how scared I was when I first watched this episode. It was extremely unnerving, and I'm not alone either. 22 years later, this is still one of the most talked about horror moments in all of kids programming.
Return the slab, or suffer my curse.
The King Ramses curse thing, right? That one, just based on my experience with the convention people, that almost everybody, that is their favorite episode. I think a lot of it really has to do with the simplicity of this three-dimensional image in a two-dimensional world. And that was Dilworth, by the way, right?
Yeah. Return the slab, or suffer my curse.
What makes this episode go from good to great is the elevation from horror to horror comedy. Because as horrific as King Ramses is, it really is the unbothered, greedy reply from Eustace that is the cherry on top.
What's your offer?
Because faced with the threat of not one, not two, but 3 plagues, this man will negotiate with supernatural beings over some cash.
What's your offer?
Which, as this comment points out, is actually a really polite thing to do. Like, he doesn't have to give Eustace this heads up, but he does. What a gentleman. So I think King Ramses is definitely the most recognizable and most remembered, but the darkest, the most sinister, for lack of a better term, the most f***ed up villain has got to be Freaky Fred.
Is there any episodes or characters that stand out to you both as being, you know, what you would imagine would have been someone's scariest episode?
Freaky Fred. I read so many things, and people said so many things. People have contacted me and said that you scared the bejesus out of me when I was a kid, and I think that was a real risk for them to do that character.
In my book, Freaky Fred is second to none. This episode is cursed. The devil is in the details. Through this demonic poem, we learn about the life of abuse that Fred has conducted, while our poor dog is trapped inside of the bathroom.
It was a day I'd not forget. The day that I first met my pet.
Keep in mind, all this narration we're hearing from Fred are the words inside his head. He says that at the beginning.
Hello, new friend. My name is Fred. The words you hear are in my head.
I wrote Freaky Fred with a friend of mine who I met while working on Seuss, Bill Marsilli, and he wrote King Ramses. He's a wonderful writer. I do have an affection for Fred because it's in verse. I mean, I remember walking with John Dilworth, and he said, I want to do an episode about a freaky barber, evocative of Sweeney Todd, certainly. I don't remember if he brought up Sweeney Todd at the time, but he said, I'd like to do it in verse.
And oh, such fuzz it does demand.
He tells us about his pet that he couldn't help but shave.
That I be naughty.
This girl Barbara that he couldn't help but shave.
Barbara, my love was named, and her fair hair are mane untamed.
And then this older man that he couldn't help but shave. This is dark art. Okay.
Some of those episodes were very dark. Some were frothy, you know, but some really twisted.
Not only is he reciting in his head this dark poem that sounds like if Dr. Seuss and Edgar Allan Poe made a baby, it's his constant smiling throughout the episode. He twirls before he shaves the last bit of hair off of Courage's bum. Even when he gets taken away at the end, presumably back to some mental facility.
With love, Fred.
As if nothing wrong was done. This is one of those episodes where there just is no resolution. It's just like some dark shit happens and then it ends. Like, diabolical. Diabolical synonym, please, because I can't keep saying that. Diabolical cinnamon. Fiendish, satanic, hellish, wicked. Yeah, wicked, unholy. It's just 11 minutes of some unholy madness, thanks to Fred. And then there's Dilworth's favorite villain, the one who set the tone with the very first episode, Katz.
Welcome to the Katz Motel. I'm Katz.
Katz is such a diabolical I see, there it is again. Katz is a pretty satanic fellow. The way he splits the family up and makes sure that they are so by peeping through his paintings and shower heads, only so that he can feed them to his mutant spiders.
There were notes from time to time, but my favorite note, which didn't come from Linda, it came from Standards and Practices. It's room 666.
Yeah.
And the note was, we're going to get complaints, so can you just change the number? I made it 666 and a half.
I knew it.
And it was fine.
When it's time for Courage to confront Katz himself, there's only one way to resolve the conflict. Games.
One of my favorite things about the show was when they like come to the head of a confrontation, you know, then they do something like they salsa dance or something, or they like, you know, get in like an intense game of like badminton or something, or...
Right, so how do you resolve conflict? Think back as a child. It would be games.
This is true.
Yeah, so it was just a formula.
Yeah.
It's a formula of mine to resolve conflict, not with violence.
Do you actually think about it that way though when you were creating it? Were you like, I'm gonna play on my childhood, or like...
No, not me specifically, but it was deliberate to use childhood games and play to resolve conflict as a contradiction to the adult world of aggressive dominance. Right? The stronger prevails, the most brutal prevails. Yeah, that's going to happen anyway, right? But to defeat somebody in checkers, it's humiliating.
Katz is a repeat villain. I think it's for good reason. He is one of the best villains.
Welcome to Club Katz. I'm Katz.
But on Club Katz, he's not feeding them to spiders. Now he's up to something else.
Now I'm up to something. Terrible things happen here.
Who's Katz putting on this entertainment for?
Tonight, for your enjoyment, Eustace the Wrecking Ball.
There is no crowd. He just has an applause machine. Why did he mastermind this whole new club to put this performance on? Is he mad? So off the top, those are some of the most horrifying villains, but there's other flavors of them too. Like I said, this show is a goldmine of them. One of the funniest is Schwick.
Name's Bushwick, but call me Schwick. Just Schwick. Don't ever call me Bushwick.
Where are you from?
Bushwick. You can call that Bushwick, but not me. Me, you call Schwick. Just Schwick.
LeQuack is pretty funny too, and he's another repeat villain.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
The Goose God is very funny. And then I'll throw Cajun Fox in there too. I love his sunglasses, and especially when he takes them off. Cajun Fox is just a cool guy.
Hey, man. How you doing?
And who could forget Shirley the Medium, another fantastic recurring character in this universe. The way she helps Eustace contact his dead brother.
Just dial my dead brother and shut up.
Join hands.
That's just brilliant. Extra points to Shirley for always referring to Eustace as the stupid one.
The stupid one. He's stupid, right?
And what's this eye she has anyway? You know, it's a little different. It's not like a Sharingan or a Rinnegan. Call that the Shirleygan. The Chicken from Outer Space is a classic because it's the one that started it all. In the self-titled short film that was Oscar nominated, this would be what became. Courage Revenge of the Chicken from Outer Space is crazy because the chicken is cooked. It's literally cooked and it came back to destroy Courage. It took Eustace's head off and put it on itself. I personally hated blood-sucking stuff growing up, so seeing the evil Weevil was wild. Watching how nimble and skeletal Muriel and Eustace are after the Weevil sucks most of their blood out, it's pretty scarring. Look at this. This man has been reduced to a small puddle in a bag, and it's not even the first episode something like that has happened. Which reminds me of the Snowman. The Snowman is another one of the funniest villains. He gets a couple episodes, rightfully so.
And Hohauser. He was a ton of snow.
You gotta throw some appreciation to Benton Tarantella. He appears in Everybody Wants to Direct, and then again in Angry Nasty People. And then I think there's just like one annoying character in the whole show, and it's this guy. And they definitely made him that way on purpose. But he does offer some really good moments like this one. I bet you can think of at least a few guys that are unironically like this in real life.
I only had a nickel. Now, I own 3 apartment buildings and a fleet of limousines.
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here. Fun to drive up here in the Hollywood Hills.
All you have to do to learn the secret of my success is send me money.
And there's a couple more key villains that we'll pay a visit to later, but the last one that I'd like to mention for now is the Puppet Master, the Magician, the Great Fusili. This guy and this episode are special for a few reasons. It's one of those episodes where the conflict is actually not resolved. There's no happy ending. This episode is the root of a popular fan theory, that this twisted ending from the season 1 finale is what actually is the rest of Courage's existence in the following 3 seasons. It's like Sasori and Naruto, whose parents have passed but have been turned into puppets, playing pretend that they're still alive to love him. And while we're talking fan theories, we have to address one of the most popular ones besides this, that this entire show is an exaggeration of reality, that Courage has an overactive imagination due to anxiety or perhaps schizophrenia, and that it's all just in Courage's head. We'll get into these theories a bit more in chapter 6, which is all about art and the interpretation of it, but for now I'll just say that the most important thing is how art makes you feel. So if either of these theories or any other ones that you can think of make you feel something greater, then go with it. That's like the whole point. There's tons of department that go into filmmaking, but there's one that really stands out with this show in particular, and for that reason, it deserves its own chapter. Believe it or not, even though we have long called them pictures or motion pictures, audio is actually the backbone to cinema. Real ones know. I think that's why you can watch, air quotes, watch, from the other side of the room while you're cooking dinner, or while you're eating dinner, or on your second monitor while you're playing Brotato. You can get a lot of the key information from sound alone. The music sets the tone, the dialogue conveys the information, and sound effects fill in the details. What's exceptionally notable about Courage the Cowardly Dog soundtrack is that so much of it is original.
We wrote pretty much a different theme for every single villain.
That's insane.
You know, because it's like people don't do that. You know, so it was extra work. We didn't really care. We just wanted it to be cool.
Reminds me how all the major villains in Naruto had musical themes, which was very effective in conveying their powerful dark presences. A lot of these themes have millions of views just because they're so iconic in and of themselves. Shout out to Pain. He was a perfect villain.
He was a ton of snow.
For any Naruto fans out there, people that just notice how much I reference Naruto, don't worry. We'll get there one day. That one's gonna be a big video. Even bigger than Crisis, Catastrophe, and SpongeBob.
Are you gonna be able to handle that? I hope so, because it's coming.
One of the first examples that comes to mind in speaking about exceptional music in this show is Human Habit Trail. You know what a habit trail is? I didn't, and I had 4 gerbils growing up. Well, it's a pretty f***ed up episode. Dr. Gerbil is an actual maniac. Go figure. But in the climax of this episode, there's a chase scene with Courage and the Doc, where they make this inspired choice to actually mute all of the sounds except the music. It completely subverts our expectations and makes a really beautiful scene.
And John was constantly wanting us to do cinematic stuff and stuff that was different.
Bringing it back to Freaky Fred, his music was actually so psychedelically disturbing that it's intoxicating. I love when a fan base comes together. It's a lot like how Bikini Bottom came together in Band Geeks, another episode with a fan-made reanimation. Haha! Fans are awesome because they make the best creators, if you ask me. I say that to say you don't want any mega moron executives that stare at spreadsheets all day trying to min-max and calculate what best thing they should make to make the most money. You want fans. People that are fans of great art. People that appreciate great art to be the ones making it. And I believe it's for those reasons that Dilworth and his team felt compelled to make such innovative decisions. And that led to the show being as iconic as it is today. So there was a lot of fantastic original music in this show, but when they did use music that was not original, they were very tasteful in which songs they selected. Like, they used the Ode to Joy in this episode. Are you kidding me? Actually, maybe that was one of the original ones. I can't believe Courage the Cowardly Dog invented the Ode to Joy. And of course, we arrive at arguably the most significant musically themed episode in the Tower of Dr. Jalost, another fan favorite.
The one that's the most effective one for me, haunting anyone, is the Tower of Dr. Jalost. I really, really like that score. It's very, very integrated into the show. I'm using the same theme every time, and then at the end, it becomes very major, and a lot of fans love that show. They're constantly writing me about that show.
Yeah.
Like, how did you do it? I sat at the keyboard and I played it.
They went fully cinematic with this one, that's for surezies.
You missed one. There's a happy person.
In both the Tower of Dr. Jalost and Curtain of Cruelty, Eustace is the only one in the world that it has no effect on.
He must be immune to emotions.
That is a hilarious detail.
I'm a lousy storyteller. but somehow I find some emotional components that I grab onto.
While Dilworth may think he's a lousy storyteller, and everything about film school will teach you that story is king, editing legend Walter Murch agrees that emotion is actually the only thing that overtakes it in terms of importance. It's a highly recommend book for any editors out there, just filmmakers in general out there, art appreciators out there. Get the book In the Blink of an Eye by Walter Murch. As an editor, he comes up with a list of priorities, and at the very top of that list is the emotion. And his reasoning is, when people walk out of the theater, what they're gonna remember above all, even above what happened in the story, is what they felt. That's the number one thing that people remember about any film, or arguably about any piece of art, is how it made them feel. Remember how Jody said that John would always describe a feeling when talking about what music he wanted?
He would often describe a feeling.
Well, Christopher Nolan did that exact thing with Hans Zimmer when working on Interstellar.
He wouldn't tell me what the movie was about. I sat down and I wrote this piece about what it feels like to be a father.
I thought it was absolutely perfect and captured the emotional qualities of the film that I wanted. I think what that did is it set him very firmly in a direction relating to the heart of the film.
At the end of the day, all these different people, all these different departments that are contributing to an art piece, it all just adds up to create an effect on the viewer or an emotion.
The most important thing is the effect upon the viewer.
They really had no business making this show go this hard in the yard. They could have turned in some crap and called it a day, but instead they went the extra mile of crafting so many original songs just so that it was well tailored to the episodes they were working on. And it's all because they wanted to continue that beautiful cycle of inspiration.
And that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure that there would be shows that people would like as much as I liked Bugs Bunny when I was growing up.
Well, that's a beautiful thing, but what does it all mean anyway? Is it all just a bunch of colors and voices, just a bunch of sounds and images? Just a bunch of bullshit on the TV, am I right? It doesn't mean anything, it's just a bunch of bullshit, am I right? We're going to look at Courage through the lens of open interpretation, because that's the beauty in art, especially art that frequently uses abstract symbolism. I mean, that's the whole game of subjectivity, using symbols that might carry inherent meaning and putting them in a scene that evokes an emotion, likely causing the human being to derive meaning from it. And it's not just me that's saying this is the way that the creator of this art wishes for the world to see it as well.
Art is for interpreting. I know what my show is about, but I'm not going to tell you. You give it the meaning that means something to you.
I 1000% agree here. If Dilworth or any other creators were to come on some interview and tell us, oh yeah, the rest of the show is Courage controlling the puppets, oh yeah, the whole show is in Courage's head, well then the whole imagination and guessing game is over.
In Mask, were the rabbits and
Why remove the clothing of a beautiful thing?
Okay, so you're not going to answer it?
What's the point then of trying to decipher true meaning or unintentional meaning in a thing?
So you rather leave it open for interpretation?
Art is that.
The whole point of art is that it gets your feelings going, gets your imagination going, and that's the effect that it has on the viewer. Take Courage in the Big Stinkin' City, for example. There's a lot of teasing and build up to what's behind that door.
You want to know what's behind that door? You don't want to know what's behind that door.
And although we learn it eats everything off a person but their bones, and we get to hear it slurp for a second, we never actually see what it is. And once again, if the creators of this show were to tell us that, oh yeah, that's an alien, or oh yeah, that's another bug just like Schwick, well then that defeats the whole guessing game. It defeats the whole magic of imagining what might be back there. Rather than connecting those dots for us, it gives us one dot and allows our imagination to finish the connection. This is how some forms of therapy work. Look, they literally do this in an episode. Eustace connects the dots with what's in his head, and Muriel connects the dots with what's in hers.
I see a beautiful butterfly who only wants to make her husband happy.
Boom.
I see a woman hitting a guy on the head with a frying pan.
I'm not just making shit up. I actually mean what I say. I think a lot of great artists see things this way. The BoJack Horseman creator feels the same about how fans interpret the last episodes of his show. It's useless to try to control people's perceptions. It's so much better to just go with the flow of the subjective perspectives of interpretation by using things like symbols and double or triple entendres. Artists love using things that carry inherent meanings and multiple meanings. It's good for the art experience, motherfucker. So now we understand that John's meaning that has resonated with him during the creation of this art can coexist with someone else's personal experiences and interpretations with the same art, and so on with mine and yours and the rest.
There's all these fan theories about how nowhere is like either purgatory or hell or something.
Oh, I get so many of those. I love them all. I love them all. I'm not going to become a stuffed shirt and tell somebody their theory is wrong. They're all correct. Who's to say you can't look at artwork and say, this is it?
So in talking about symbols, what am I talking about? I'm talking about Courage plunging into the darkness in Queen of the Black Puddle. That's a great metaphoric example. Meaning types will love this one. Oh my god, do we love a good set of abstract symbolism to derive meaning out of. Oh, I'm gonna derive meaning out of this art so hard. What about this blonde girl playing the violin? In terms of subjective interpretations, it's now time to talk about heads of beef, which is a great example to explore that it was all in Courage's head theory. Because this episode is really like that. Courage gets a bad feeling from this place and this pig, and when a customer disappears, Courage starts to think that they took him, and maybe even ate him. Courage connects the dots to those in his head, and comes with this narrative that these must be cannibals. But in this case, Courage is actually wrong, because by the time we reach the end of the episode, we learn that this time it truly was just all in his head.
I would love to feature your work at my gallery of culinary wonders.
He invents a whole conflict where he needs to plunge into the darkness, when this time he actually didn't even have to do it after all. Courage was perceiving things in a way that was immediately flavored with fear, conflating it with everything else that happens all the time at the farmhouse. And if you do subscribe to this theory, I would go as far as to say that you should look at this as the prime example for your theory. You could say that this episode is a peek into the real world as it truly is, where we aren't so submerged into Courage's viewpoint as to see things that aren't real, but rather see things as they really are for a change. If you get more out of the show by looking at it through that lens, then why not? Whatever invokes a greater feeling for you is probably what you should go with.
Art is that.
And what invokes the greatest feeling for me is plunging into the darkness. So while we've explored almost all of the story's key villains, there's one more very important one that we need to understand. Arguably the biggest and inarguably the most consistent villain throughout the entire show, Eustace. For most of the show, Eustace barely ever calls Courage by his name.
Courage!
To us, Courage is the main character. To Eustace, he's just a stupid dog.
Stupid dog!
One that Muriel shouldn't have saved. But why is he like this?
I explored hate through the persona of Eustace, but then I also offered potential reasons for the source of that hate.
The older you get, the more you come to understand that behind that scary old face, there's a broken man underneath.
Can I come hunting with you? No! Please, big brother, no!
Perhaps even, deep within, a broken child. In The Sand Whale Strikes, we see Eustace's mom wish to give up her son's life and his wife's in order to get the sand whale's prize money.
You know how much a sand whale is worth? He can keep me stupid son and his stupid wife. Now row!
So now we know that that's probably where his unending greed and fixation on money over family comes from. In the Mother's Day episode, Eustace's mom hates all of the gifts that he brings her, except for the mirror in the photo. His mom has always been obsessed with her looks. And when his mom gives Eustace his gift to Courage, his inner child starts to peek out.
That's mine! Why don't you ever give me any presents?
She never gave him anything. He's always felt neglected and continues to feel so. Eustace was verbally and emotionally abused by his mom.
Your pa was a real man. You can't fill his shoes.
By his older brother.
See you later, useless.
And he fell into the negative momentum of continuing that cycle of abuse to the next generation, even if it isn't onto his kid, but onto his dog. Being victim to one is an incredibly difficult position to be in, and therefore one of the most difficult decisions in life, to bear such a brutal suffering and still to choose light over dark. They say that that's the only difference between heroes and villains.
Villains and heroes actually have the exact same backstory. Both the villain story and the backstory of the hero are pain. So the difference between the villain and the hero is one thing. It's how they respond to pain. The world hurt me, I'm going to hurt it back. And the hero says, the world hurt me, I'm not going to let this happen to anybody else.
Wow.
It's just literally how you decide to react to pain that either turns you into the victim or turns you into the hero.
hero. One continues that cycle and one breaks it. This is why albums like Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers are so important and so timeless, I predict. It's about breaking cycles of pain and hatred and abuse to create more peaceful lives in generations future. We're getting closer to the source, you guys. Let's proceed even deeper. In McPherson Phantom, I think one of the most important episodes in the whole show. We see her team up with a literal phantom to manipulate her son into believing his wife Muriel is treating him badly, specifically to separate them. That's what level she's on.
I guess it all started with me mom. She never liked me.
Good work, Eustace.
I see a bitter old woman with a bad wig who's in a lot of pain.
That's a big dose of reality.
I'm ugly. I'm ugly.
Then Eustace's mom gets therapy.
It all started out years ago with my mother's Auntie Griselda. She was a cruel woman. Made us all miserable.
And there it is. Now we've learned that this rabbit hole goes pretty fucking deep. This is beyond just Eustace and his mom. Now we can finally make sense of that fear that we felt as a kid. The fear that Courage felt when Eustace abused him. Where was that hate coming from? Why was Eustace like this? Because he's a victim first and then a villain later.
I ain't Eustace. I'm Eustace.
He's a victim to the patterns instilled in him from his own mother, who herself is a victim to the patterns instilled from her family growing up. These patterns are insidious, and it's very hard to break. It's the right thing to do, but so many don't do it because it's extremely hard, and it's far easier to just pay it forward. There's a moment where Eustace catches a glimpse of what he really is inside. In The Curse of Shirley, the whole day, Eustace's only remaining loved ones are trying to set up for his birthday party in celebration of him. All day, everyone is just trying to love him.
That man should really come to his own birthday party.
But they can't, because the person that really needs to love him is him. Their love can't get through to him until he learns to love himself first.
It's so hot. My head is burning.
Where's your hat?
I don't have one.
No hat? That's not right. Little boy should have a hat.
Courage, you did the impossible. You got Eustace to give of himself.
You either grow or go.
blah, blah. I ain't growing, and I ain't going.
A villain is a perfect character to have discover empathy.
The stupid one has taken on the pain of his wife. He has learned to give relief and share pain.
No, Ma. You always look good to me.
Now I will show the world the difference between courage and fear.
Courage easily could have just closed his eyes to any of the phenomenon that came a-knocking and then just let events happen as they happen. But that's not courage. Courage is action.
Anything worth its value is worth fighting for.
The heart is a very strong muscle. It really does overcome fear. Nothing that I wouldn't do to prevent harm to someone I love.
You know, life is so terrifying. I guess the only way to survive, you have to be as scary as it is.
That's what gave courage his courage.
I'll save you. The things I do for love.
Especially people who suffer with a lot of anxiety. We didn't know what to do with our fear. He was the shining example of what you can do, even if you are afraid to tackle something.
And if a little pink dog could face his fears, so could that person.
You've taught me the meaning of the word courage. Courage. Courage.
There's lots of rumors going on about that courage is modeled after the dog that I had when I was a boy. And it's probably true. I missed that dog, but it was a coward.
Courage. I think you nodded off before I get you the ending.
We are celebrating the life of Muriel Barry, who had helped inspire Muriel Bagg, of whose lap courage found consolation from all the terrors of that poor dog's life.
Muriel!
And so, my dear Muriel, the one quote she would often repeat: a cup of tea, a friendly chat, a cozy seat, simple things, hard to beat.
And that's the end of the story. Happily ever after.
My favorite episode of Danny Phantom has always been Splitting Images, a story about a boy who was bullied so relentlessly his spirit became trapped in his locker. This is the haunting of Locker 724, dreaded container once for the body and now for the soul, of Sidney Poindexter. It's a critical confrontation for Danny, who is still new to having powers and falling into the all-too-easy temptation of misusing them, to put it lightly. And even though he's getting revenge on his bully, in this moment he is the bully, and the witnessing ghost of a boy who was bullied into a life so bad anyone would pray to escape it, so bad that, dementedly, it's cemented as his permanent experience, sees this act of bullying and is like, I hate bullies. So he gives him a taste of his own medicine. You see, up until this point, Danny has had a problem with possessing people, but when he does it to them, they come back confused, like they were half asleep in the backseat of their own consciousness.
I don't even remember volunteering to chaperone the dance.
While Danny took the wheel of their lives and did what he wanted with it. But when Poindexter does it to him, he's not made unconscious, presumably because he's half ghost. And so instead what happens to him is his soul is extracted from his own body and deposited into the mirror in Locker 724. A world which resembles a faded memory of the nightmare that school was like for Poindexter all those years ago. And now, Danny must reap what he has sown. Now he must know what it's like to be but a spirit, trapped in another dimension, a forgotten phantom of what once was, while impossibly distanced from what still is. And I've always found such a concept quite eerie. That's why I've long held the belief that this is the best episode of the show. And that's why I was drawn to it, because it was eerie. After all, I was getting myself into a ghost story, wasn't I? This is where imaginative paranormal activity goes down, isn't it? And then getting to sit with those thoughts, those feelings, and wondering what it means. What is this feeling? Well, you've got the eerie itch. You know, the eerie itch. It's a dark imagination, a dark curiosity that drives you to psychological thrillers and horror. It's what if but rooted in fear rather than love. It's open to madness and chaos. And my preferred way of scratching this particular itch has always been ghost stories. I wasn't a kid who was afraid of monsters under the bed. I was afraid of ghosts floating in the corner. I would watch those way more than likely doctored, sketchy security cam footage videos in the earliest days of YouTube with alleged paranormal activity. I was thrilled, I was fascinated, I was terrified, and I wondered. When I went to my school library and I had the eerie itch, I picked up scary stories to tell in the dark, and I enjoyed the section that was about ghost stories the most. Yes, because it's haunting, but equally because it's thrilling. And you see, I had the eerie itch. And I was hoping that rewatching this series would scratch it. I loved the series as a kid, and I remembered episodes like Splitting Images, which was episode 5, and setups for the series villain Vlad Masters, which came in episode 7, Bitter Reunions. Vlad Masters, also known as Vlad Plasmius, was the only other half-human, half-ghost besides Danny. Both of them made that way by Danny's dad, Jack Fenton. And I thought that was a really interesting parallel. I wondered what other episodes I'd get into and what they might do with these two. They could be the bridge between worlds for good or for evil. They have a common connection. That's a hell of a premise. That's a hell of a foundation. I can't wait to see where it goes from here. And so I thought that was a really interesting parallel, and I wondered what other episodes I'd get into and what they might do with these two and what it might mean. And I gotta be honest with you, I finished watching the show. And I did just watch a bunch of episodes with ghosts in them, seeing a lot of them multiple times over. Yet I felt like at the end of it all, I learned close to nothing about them, or who they haunt, or why, or how they were haunted and why. Despite having so many ghosts in it, it was somehow barely about the ghosts, nor the stories that can be told through the creative device of ghosts. And I was really confused about that. And for a while, I was gaslighting myself too, thinking, well, I'm really doing it this time. I really am overthinking a kid's show this time. But no, the expectations I had, the memory of the show I had, were set by them. You made an amazing episode 5 and a great episode 7, so good that it inflated my expectations of the entire show.
You made me feel too free.
You can't just make me feel free and then take it away from me.
You can't do that.
So I became obsessed with ghost stories in pursuit of some sort of clarity as to why the show fell short of my expectations. And you know, it actually worked. It actually did give me the clarity I was looking for, because the more ghost stories I consumed, the more it became obvious to me what my problem with Danny was, specifically. And that's that I think it's just not a ghost story.
I thought you were the ghost. just the same as Ghost.
Count the spaces.
Why?
In case the ghost is trying to communicate.
Because it's a ghost. No such thing as a ghost, dumbass.
Now I know what you're thinking. Rock has really lost the plot with this one. How could you come out from under your rock, speaking so moronically? It's called Danny Phantom. The theme song explains it. There's ghosts in every episode. Respectfully, my liege, how the fuck is that not a ghost story? And then, this compression of sediments has the audacity to double down and add that furthermore, Space Story is Ghost Story, actually. Wow, and sure owning the title of this video quite a bit. Better not change it when it doesn't go viral immediately like the rest of this website keeps doing. Ah, I was gonna watch that, but you folded. Better not build A/B testing into the upload system so everyone is encouraged to keep doing this, so everyone thinks that the meta is to treat your audience like a focus group, so that when you log on to watch something, it's just all the same guys from yesterday second-guessing their pickup lines. Better not forget to type my 7-letter channel name when you repost my content on TikTok so the comments don't have to do it for you. Just do what iCandy does. Better finish this point. Rest assured, approximation of viewers who click off my 100-hour labor of love after 30 seconds apparently, if you've somehow made it this far. I'm not speaking moronically, I'm speaking oxymoronically. Oxymoronically speaking. These things are apparently contradictory. And it truly is how I've come to feel about these two stories. That's my actual take, and I'm here to prove it. Alright, so we're going to inquire into what's up with the Ghost and Danny Phantom. We're going to talk about why ghosts are one of my favorite literary devices of all time. We're going to build to why I've encapsulated my last 4 months of adventure with this statement. I'm going to be attaching a ghost cam to my cat, because I heard that kids see ghosts, and I'm wondering if cats see ghosts, so that's the cat cam. Good stories are about something. Remember that. And while we're at it, about as a preposition is goated. Probably my second favorite preposition at the time of recording, only behind for. I think for might be the best preposition, is it not? I dare you to make a case for a better preposition than about or for. Concerning is a pretty good one, I'll give you that. Despite is a big one, I'll give you that. From, not bad, but I don't know if as good as for. I mean, of is big. To is massive. I gotta say, about is goated. Gotta be one of my favorite prepositions. Good stories are about something. That means there's some sort of intent in it. That means there's some sort of idea in it. Idiot Box is about imagination. Dying for Pie is about guilt. Squid's Day Off is about catastrophizing. And this holds true for entire series, not just single episodes. Courage the Cowardly Dog is about his namesake. Feeling fear and acting anyway. Breaking Bad is about change, transformation. I Think You Should Leave is about sentimental absurdism, an uncomfortably honest yet warmingly hopeful reflection of real life. Of course, it's just as well for movies, songs, you'll even find themes amongst whole discographies. Mewtwo Strikes Back is about power and purpose, meaning in life. Through the Fire and Flames is about perseverance embodied in its marathonic performance. K-Word is about karma and is currently a strong contender for my favorite song of the year. Those videos are about writing and creativity. That video is about parody and fair use. This video is about James Somerton. And in speaking about full discographies or filmographies, the shape of Christopher Nolan's career embodies a fascination with time. That motherfucker is always slowing things down or speeding them up, telling them in reverse or a non-linear fashion.
5 minutes in the real world gives you an hour in the dream.
Every hour we spend on that planet will be 7 years back on Earth.
That dude stays thinking, writing, and creating about time. And so you shall remember that good stories are about something. Perhaps they're even for something. And even when it's about nothing, nothing is what it's about. What's the name of that damn play that's about nothing? I'm gonna Google the play about nothing, it's gonna come up. Okay, well Shakespeare's got much to do about nothing. I was thinking about the one that's got a G in it. Waiting for Godot! Aha, I'm not crazy. Though Godot is promised for tomorrow, he never appears, leaving the characters in a state of existential uncertainty. That is what the play is about. That is likely why Waiting for Godot was voted Best Modern Play in English. Nothing is what it's about. Rule proven by the exception. And we might get into Inception. Back to Danny for dramatic tension. And I was hoping that Danny Phantom was about ghosts. That's what I was led to presume it would be about. if you can even believe that. Let's see what Danny Phantom is about. So in episode 1, Mystery Meat, a ghost from the ghost zone comes through. It's a lunch lady ghost, and she's upset that someone changed the menu. And that someone happens to be Sam, who's trying to go for a vegetarian menu at their school. And so the carnivore lunch lady is disturbed by that, perhaps haunted by that, and therefore she wants to carry the haunting onto them to get this menu fixed. Okay, I see that there's a logic here. So she's gonna come to haunt them until her haunting is cleared, presumably.
The menu has been the same for 50 years!
I wonder what emotional attachment she has to that menu. Why does she care so much about this menu to come back and haunt these guys? I hope we find out.
I control lunch! Lunch is sacred! Lunch has rules!
Okay, the lunch lady has got some real convictions about meat and lunch. Maybe it's a control thing. I mean, hey, it's not the most meaningful thing in the world, but I like that there at least is a clear logic to her haunting.
Please work.
Very heroic music playing as we watch the soul of the disturbed lunch lady get sucked into oblivion.
No!
And so that's the basic repeated plot of Danny Phantom, is that there's a ghost that comes in from the ghost zone to cause problems for some vague reason, and we never really fully explore that reason or give them closure or freedom. They get sucked into the Fenton thermos. No! And they get shoved into the ghost zone. Okay, and so we see this formula, and it continues to tease but never fully deliver. In episode 2, Parental Bonding, we open with a dragon ghost that comes to the ghost zone. I love dragons. What's up with the dragon ghost? Okay, and then after defeated, it transforms back into human ghost. It was a princess. Fascinating. And so what's up with her? What's up with the princess dragon ghost? What's she want? What's her deal? Why is she haunted? Why is she haunting?
All I wanted was to go to the princess costume ball. My horrid mummy won't let me!
Okay, we have a desire and a conflict. There's clear alignment and direction with her character. She transforms into a dragon, presumably connected with that amulet she's got. You just introduced a very interesting ghost in the opening scene.
What's taking so long with that dragon research, Sam?
So apparently in this world they have like a Ghostopedia or something, because she just Googles what's up with the dragon ghost and says it to him. Like
I'm sending you the link.
Even though his ghost hunting parents still doubt whether ghosts are real, as seen in the first episode.
Thermos can't trap ghosts because ghosts don't exist.
There's just open information on the internet about ghosts in this world too. Okay, and they click more info. Yes, I'm interested in the ghost lore. What's up with this ghost and Danny Phantom? More info. Medieval ghostly legend held that the cursed amulet of Aragon could transform anywhere in the streets of extreme emotion. And what does our main character have to say about this? Wait, I'm going on a date with a dragon? It's like, dude! I'm interested in the ghosts. I want this to be about the ghosts. And then we just hear nothing about her for the rest of the episode. It's just forced into being a backseat detail. The only next thing we see about her is an afterthought. At the end of the episode, after defeating the dragon and sorting out everything with Paulina and Sam and Danny and Tucker, you know, it becomes about friendship, and that's great. I think friendship good and family good. These are good sentiments to put in a kid's show, but I signed up for a ghost story, and you gave me this amazingly interesting ghost story lore at the beginning, and then the next time we heard about it is just an afterthought at the end of the episode. She says,
I want to go to the ball!
Well, then what's Tucker say? On second thought, I don't need a date that badly. Like, they just make fun of it. Why are you making fun of the heart of the show? Like, this is insane. This is a ghost story, isn't it? Look, man, I have no problem with a kid show that's about friendship good, family good, morals good, all that stuff is good. But you named your show Danny Phantom to make a ghost story, didn't you? Didn't you? Why did you introduce this amazingly interesting ghost just for it to take the back seat, to get sucked into the Fenton thermos, and to get thrown into the ghost zone? Just shove them into the ghost zone. Problem solved. I don't care why they're f***ing with us. I do care how they're f***ing with us. We spend a lot of time thinking about how they f*** with us. It might be because they can control lunch, or they can control electricity. They can control boxes.
I am the box ghost!
They can control time. They can make wishes. There's a lot of thought put into how the ghosts function, specifically how they fight, because Danny Phantom is a superhero story, not a ghost story.
Well, if this superhero thing doesn't work out, I could have an exciting career as a busboy.
But there's very little materialized thought published in the source material about why. There's what, and there's some how, but there's not why. why is the deepest of the questions that we yearn for. I think it's why, pun intended, the Ember episode, infamous episode, already videos about that in the material itself, it actually doesn't explicitly state what her backstory is. There's just rumors amongst the fandom that one of the writers said that she died in a fire. That's why her name is Ember, and that's why she sings about "you will remember my name." And I'll look into if it was actually published somewhere, or if this is just a made-up phantom, a figment of someone's imagination, a phantom that's invaded the fandom. But in a sense, it doesn't matter whether a writer actually said that or if the fandom kind of just came to that conclusion and upvotes it, because what does that go to show? Like, to me, that goes to show that we find that backstory interesting. We find it interesting to think about the lore, the backstory, the why. For me, at least, the idea that Ember might have gone in a burning ember is dark, but gives extra meaning. It gives a why. I think it's really cool when writers have an idea of the logic behind their characters. This could perhaps be described as a more traditional sense of a ghost story. Once given closure, the haunting ends. This is true in stories like Stir of Echoes. Very good, but also dark, so trigger warning if you choose to watch that one. This might be more of our normal conceptualization of ghost stories, right? A ghost haunts us, it comes and spooks us. Maybe people don't believe us when we tell them about it, but perhaps if it could get some sort of closure with whatever's wrong, it could be a free spirit or a happy spirit.
Hey, I'm free! Finally!
Not shoved into some sort of ghost zone. But in other stories, such as Changing of the Guard in the Twilight Zone, ghosts are not depicted as bad ghosts whatsoever. They're depicted as happy, reassuring ghosts. It subverts our expectations because it's a reversal of what we might normally see with a quote-unquote traditional or classic ghost story where the ghost is haunted and needs closure. In Changing of the Guard, it's actually the human that needs closure who gets it from the spirits, who gets it from the ghosts. In Changing of the Guard, there's a professor who loves his job. He loves teaching. It clearly is his ikigai, his purpose, his calling. He's taken aback and caught off guard when he's told it's time for him to retire. He's had a good long career, nothing personal, it's just that time. It's a changing of the guard, and he can't grapple with it. He can't grapple with the idea of not being a teacher anymore, so much so that he thinks about ending it all.
I have won no victory. Now I am ashamed to die.
And before he does, he visits his empty classroom, and through the Twilight Zone, he has an impossible experience. Impossibly, the ghosts of past students of his, who have now passed on, come to give him reassurance that he really did make an impact on their careers and on their lives. Like, hey, you taught me about ethics, you taught me about morals. And through this impossible experience of ghosts coming to him, he does get the closure that he needs. And after the conversation, not only does he not want to end it all, not only does he want to keep on living, but he can retire happy, knowing that he did make an impact. He was a good professor.
I do believe I may have left my mark. A few gauntlets of knowledge that I've thrown down that may have been picked up.
And so there's a lot of different shapes of ghost stories. There's a lot of different flavors of ghost stories. There's a lot of different kinds of ghosts. They can be told to tell these impossible stories. Ghost stories allow us to come up with these situations that otherwise wouldn't work in a way that makes us grapple with the mystery of ghosts of real life. Did you see a phantom, or did you see a phantom? Perhaps the best place to start with my first conception of a proper ghost story is not just when
Go ahead. Release it. Let's light this candle, huh? I mean, sure, I'll lose everything, but then I'll have nothing to lose.
Well, what if we share a different destiny?
Something a little more scorched earth. No God. The only man in the sky is me.
I'll fucking suck your dick!
There's this phenomenon
within TV land that the first season is the most important season. It's when everyone involved is fully determined to get the show into the public eye. The actors are on their 5th rehearsal of one key syllable, the writers are polishing every word, and the showrunners making sure the ship stays afloat. But as soon as they get what they want, a second season, it changes. Something about the vibe or the tone gets cheaper, lazier, and feels like it's chasing the high it left. Most of the time, the simple answer is the writers pitched a great first season to the studio, and they truly did not think ahead. It might add a teaser at the end to set up a second season, but besides that, nothing else is planned. That's how I feel about The Boys. It had a lot going for it initially, but I feel like each season gets further and further away from the original point of the show. Their writing went from key plot points where each character decision matters to almost CW soap opera levels of unnecessary drama and forced tension. I promised myself I wouldn't watch the final season if I wasn't going to make a video about it. I was satisfied. Watching the clips on Twitter, sitting here with some hot cocoa, glad that the kids have realized this show was a waste of time. But with how busy I've been with my videography work, I thought it'd be a healthy creative outlet to blow the dust off this essay I had ready since season 4. So this video will be what I wrote about 2 years ago, updated, and a whole segment for season 5, because it could be a whole hour-long video on its own. Not gonna lie, they could probably kill Huey off. It's okay. If the writers are coming up with some grade A bullshit to keep him in the show, I'd rather just see him off. It'd be sad because I love me some Huey, and I think Jack Quaid himself is cool. I miss when Huey was entirely crucial. That was when the audience lived through Huey as the straight man role, who would react normally to this chaotic and sinister world. He served as a protege, the new kid on the block with fresh ideas and the knowledge of soups that could help the rest of the team. But since that point, it feels like he's just kind of doing his own thing, serving as filler arcs. I'm not saying every single thread needs to be important or progress the story, but if you take out Huey's plot lines in seasons 2 through 5, 90% of the core story wouldn't change. One of the major problems in this show is per season, they'll spin a wheel and whatever it lands on is that character's arc for the season. Starlight's arc in season 4 is discovering she used to be mean and can't stop beating the shit out of people. It's ridiculous. Coming up with a problem or new internal conflict per season isn't the problem here. It's the lack of connection that is the problem. Arcs need to be built upon past behavior from the character. It has to have some sort of domino effect, and there are rarely any in this show. And I believe that is essential when writing a character-driven drama. It doesn't have to happen all the time. Butcher is Butcher, there's no changing him. But Huey is the character this most applies to. He is still equally as developmentally stagnant as the rest of the bunch, but his character is screaming for an inkling of change. To compare, take a character like Jesse Pinkman. When you watch the first 2 seasons of Breaking Bad, his character is very loud, both metaphorically and literally.
Oh man, not my house!
He wears bright and baggy clothes, speaks with an edge, and is relatively immature. But the 2 most important qualities Jesse has towards a kind of plot like this is that he has no real adult experience, and he's never applied himself. Because of those traits, it automatically adds a shade to his overall arc, which is maturing. We see how this criminal lifestyle leads him to grow better at the profession, while leading to nothing but pain and depression as he goes deeper into it, going through truly tragic things. His regrets are literally scarred on him for the rest of his life by the end of the story. You can't have El Camino Jesse without every single thing he went through in Breaking Bad. The same can't be said about Huey. I guarantee you could show me the first 2 episodes of The Boys, then immediately cut to season 4 Huey, and they'd be the exact same. The thing is, they have tried to give Huey a maturing arc. It's just been so misplaced. It boggles my mind that the writers are scratching their heads wondering what to do with Huey, when season 1 was a fantastic blueprint on where to take him. But nah, they gotta spin the wheel of moral conundrum. Season 2 Huey isn't really much to talk about. The whole depressed from this lifestyle arc should have happened deeper into the show. It's almost like they played their cards too early with this one. But in the beginning of season 3, Huey now has an office job in an anti-soup government sector, and he's technically Butcher's boss, which sounds interesting, but then you realize that dynamic between Butcher and Huey happens for 1 episode, and then it goes right back to normal, except this time, Huey's having a toxic masculinity arc. Hell yeah, baby. At this time, he feels powerless when he keeps getting saved by Starlight, which could have been interesting if it didn't come out of nowhere.
You always have to be the strong one. You always have to be so much stronger than me.
You said that it didn't bother you.
I know. But it does.
This scene is so funny because it's the writers acknowledging that they are contradicting themselves.
Does it bother you that I could whip your ass in bowling and in everything and bench press you?
Oh my god, is that a threat or a promise?
But even with that self-awareness, they cannot make this arc make sense for the character. It's also funny to think about how the writers just forgot about when Huey saved Annie and her mother in the heart of Vought Tower by himself last season. But sure, Huey has never saved Annie, and hey, I really don't mind recontextualizing a scene for added depth or history, but in order to bring up a past moment, it actually has to be adding or weathering to a character's journey. It doesn't work if they just reset at the end of the season. The boys' writers actually subvert those expectations by having this little writing tool called making it up as you go along, with no thought towards these characters' dynamic or how it'll be impacted in a future tense. This forced infighting was only created for the sake of conflict. Huey will only have these emotions exclusively live in this season.
But it does!
In season 4, his main arc was his dad dying in the hospital. Huey realized there's a shot of his dad surviving, but that means he has to give him Compound V. Huey is at something of a crossroads. He could accept his dad's death, or he could live much longer at the risk of being turned into a monster. This is where I want to talk about moral dilemmas. We'll pull up another example from Breaking Bad that's on par with Huey's predicament. In the climax of season 4, Gus Fring and Walter White have been having a chess game to see who will kill the other to control the entire meth trade. There's a point where Jesse's loyalty has naturally swayed to Gus, but still does not allow the green light to kill Walt. So Gus simply fires Walt. He doubles down on threatening Walt's entire family, and he says he will be killing his DEA agent brother-in-law Hank Schrader. Walt returns home, frantically trying to find all of his money so he can start a new life with his family by meeting some sort of black market witness protection connect. But Walter's wife Skylar enters, saying she had to give all their money away in order to stay out of the watch of the IRS. Which she really did have to do. Don't worry, I got you, Skylar. Walter and Skylar's two paths have clashed into each other. Of course, from a writer's perspective, they wanted to take out that exit strategy for Walt because it would have been boring. But the collision of these two plot points leading to this moment was flawless. Now Walt is losing his mind over this wild card placed in his hand. This is a huge ultimatum for Walt. Option A, he accepts his termination, he lets Hank die, he can never cook meth again, and on top of all of that, he will be living in crippling paranoia that enough time Huey's old but actively pushing left. Realizes he's just delaying the inevitable, and it's better to have his dad die as the man he knew and loved. There's a moment of grief and peace Huey reaches. And then, his mom, who's only introduced this season, injects the Compound V into the dad when he's not looking, absolutely removing any significance Huey had towards this choice. Sure, technically nothing changed from Huey's end. He didn't actually do it. He still had that choice. But having someone else just make the decision without Huey's knowledge is the equivalent to Walt building a bomb, planting the bomb, saying to himself, I can't do this. This is wrong. And then Walt's kid brother Lil Walt, who they never mentioned before this season, grabs the detonator and does it anyway. It's so much build up to this fork in the road that was entirely personalized for this character, and it's stripped away by someone else. It wasn't her fight. It wasn't her choice. It wasn't her arc. This was all for Huey, and it just felt like the writers wanted to have their cake and eat it too. They wanted his dad to take the Compound V so that they could have him go on a silly Alzheimer's rampage, but leave none of the actual moral weight onto Huey, because this whole situation is too much change, clearly. Too big of a scar that would change Huey from the default. I know what some of you are going to say, but Huey ends up killing his dad, so there's some consequences right there. I'm not a monster. Of course I have empathy for his dad dying, but I end up feeling nothing because the characters feel nothing. They have no agency in their own story. They serve as reactionary devices to the chaotic plot, and that's it. This is the kind of story beat where Huey should change as a person. What they end up doing is one scene acknowledging he's still sad his dad is dead, then quickly moving on to never being brought up again, and then goes on to get raped not once, but twice, and also never brings it up again. Huey's the moral normal guy who freaks out in any moment of danger. People liked it in the first season, so why would they change it for any reason ever?
Anything but the real, anything but the real, you devil you.
People like to talk about the complexities of Homelander, but it's all very surface level stuff. The story of Homelander is that he was raised by the company Vought, which treated him like a lab rat. They taught him classic American propaganda to get him prepped to be America's mascot. While growing up, he would accidentally kill people, and the staff would reassure him everything is okay. So from a young age, he was taught there are no repercussions from killing, which enabled using his powers for wrongdoing. Eventually, he would make his debut as the Homelander, where he would spend many years being the lapdog to his boss Madison Stillwell. That is his entire backstory. He's a psychopath brimming with the confidence that he could do whatever he wants, but the insecurity that everyone will hate him for it, which is a very cool concept. But for a while in the show, Homelander has turned into this one-trick pony of a pissy man-child in every scene he's in, which has resulted in him becoming such a boring character to follow. But what would make me tolerate it was that interesting concept of his need to be accepted and loved. Then in season 4,
Your need for approval and for love? Vought brought in the best psychologists in the world. We developed the protocol to carefully engineer that need so that you would be obedient.
to me, This ruins Homelander. All those scenes establishing Homelander's desire for praise are now ruined because I'll just think about how these traits are from the writers playing make-believe like kindergartners. I just don't know what they're trying to do anymore. They added a needless plot contrivance that retcons the backstory we all liked, by the way, to explain something that already made sense. Each season, he keeps getting worse and worse. I mean, season 5 is by far the most ridiculous we've seen Homelander. And not in a funny way. They've really just scraped the fucking jar with his character. We don't need him becoming more dumb, becoming more pathetic, becoming more alt-right for us to properly hate him. We already hated him from the jump. He was just an interesting character played by a good actor. That's all we needed, but they had to fuck that up. I'm just overall disappointed with what they've done to him, because he easily could have ended up as one of the greatest villains ever. If the writers just put down the New York Times and Twitter's trending tab, they wouldn't have made him a caricature of himself. There's a lot of controversy over Frenchie in the 4th season, and it's because he kisses boys on the mouth. And the controversy over Frenchie in the 5th season is... But for season 4, Frenchie and Colin's relationship was really boring to watch. It was trying to be this moral drama of love and guilt and self-hatred, but it failed to do so because of the repetitive nature of their dynamic. It was explained when Frenchie was a paid assassin, he killed Colin's family. So every scene is Frenchie flirting with Colin and then Psycho staring in the distance that would pair well with a cheesy Spanish guitar strum. All this stuff just comes out of nowhere for Frenchie, and this arc is exactly what I mean by soap opera writing. Until Frenchie actually went to the police and confessed to being a murderer. Now it makes sense that they were using Colin as the metaphorical embodiment of everyone Frenchie has murdered. His inner turmoil is so strong he can't live with himself. He's not looking for forgiveness, he's looking for punishment. This looks like a farewell to Frenchie.
Bonjour. How the fuck did you get out?
I had Mallory pull a few strings.
Just to be clear, this was against my will.
Oh, so everything's fine. For a show that loves to market itself as ambitious and dark, it sure loves to pussy out when it comes to any real risk with their characters. I mean, come on, how can you not get pissed off when they do this shit? What's the point of getting emotionally invested in any of these characters or watching them go through some real pain just for it to be reversed at the drop of a hat? This show is such a waste of time. This is filler. These writers have no fucking clue what to do with this show, so they've resulted in coming up with these padded for runtime storylines. These characters change as much as SpongeBob. I understand Frenchie or MM are not the main point of the show. They're side characters, but that doesn't mean that their storylines shouldn't matter at all. Hell, even Marie had her important moments. I got a message to the writers if they're somehow watching this. If you don't think you can write 8 episodes worth of story with 6 or more characters with 5 seasons worth of relationships, then you should have finished the show earlier. Make it more compact. You want to know why? Season 5. His death was one of the most up, all we needed, but they had to fuck that up. They wouldn't have made him a caricature of himself. Minutes of the season 4 finale. Millions of people watching your show. All the resources to make a great piece of television, but plain out, you guys just half-assed it. Forget about legacy. Forget about transcending this for future generations. It's already outdated half a day of its release. You can't convince me that they do these lazy arcs because this show is just for fun. There's plenty of moments throughout this show where they want us to take it seriously. The real reason this is written poorly is because these writers are hacks.
Do it.
This segment will be short, but I have to put a spotlight under it. Seasons 1 through 3 Butcher was totally fine, nothing out of the ordinary. But season 4 was the most confusing journey I ever saw for Butcher. They started off by firing Butcher from the boys, then making a whole scene a few episodes later dedicated to Butcher being rehired onto the team, to then leaving again as if he was never rehired. Butcher this season is dying from cancer caused by the Temp V they came up with last season. So it's a pretty good connection, I'll give it props. But what I'm not a fan of is how desperate the writers were at destroying Butcher's character by randomly making up that he cheated on Becca.
If your love was so perfect and pure, then why'd you fuck that waitress?
To me, the Becca line when it comes to Butcher is off limits. Butcher will betray anyone if they stand in his way. Butcher will blackmail, kill, and destroy anything in his path if it means he's one step closer to killing Homelander. But Becca, being the only good thing in his life, makes his character much more interesting than this berserker carnage seeker. It showed that Butcher is a good man somewhere deep down. All these awful things are symbolic to how much love he had for Becca, but also how Becca's death was an excuse for his bloodlust. It's such a slam dunk to leave that whole arc alone because they got lucky that Butcher and Becca were a really sweet and tragic love story. But it's just ruined now by, once again, the writers making up new shit every season. The writing has gotten so all over the place to the point where all the fans just remove this fact from the canon because they disagree with it so much. Besides that pretty big fatal flaw, the rest of the arc was pretty good. I liked the death of Billy and the rise of Butcher. I was really looking forward to villain Butcher being his own unit in the final season. Until the writers felt differently. I go into it more in the season 5 section of this video, but wow, Butcher was straight up 0% different to how he was before season 5. His death was one of the most bland deaths in the show, period. Even Butcher finally killing Homelander felt bland and loveless. Just because you guys add heaven lights doesn't mean these deaths are beautiful. I get he was baiting Huey to kill him so he could finally be stopped, but his death felt very odd considering he didn't go full villain mode this season at all. This scene just felt so clunky and paint by numbers. It felt more like they added Butcher's death just out of pure obligation to end his story. I really did think that deal with the devil in the last season was going to be the perfect segue to him trying to kill all Soups and the boys' team in the progress. But his plan in the show was to kill maybe 200 Soups in Vought Tower, if that, in all 100% unbiased honesty. His ending didn't move me at all.
This is your award-winning unbiased news program.
Comedy is subjective, but if this show is the funniest thing you've seen, I'm going to assume you've got a Punisher logo somewhere on your car and think using the middle finger is really badass. The only kind of jokes they do is gross out shock comedy potty humor. It's really raunchy, vulgar, and gross. It's not the good kind of gross either. It's bad gross. It's Will Ferrell, Sherlock Holmes type of gross. I get that they somewhat base all this raunchy stuff on the very raunchy comic, but it comes at a point where I can't help but think it's bad lazy jokes. I'll give the boys some credit. It's not terrible every single time. Most things with the Deep are actually pretty funny.
The ancient Taoists believed that perennium sunning stopped chi, life force, from leaving the body.
But once you realize it's the same joke every single time, it gets stale pretty quickly.
Oh, wow. Your skin is so oily, like hugging a McRib. It smells in here.
You're right. It smells like an Abercrombie got fucked by a 7-Eleven while Arby's jerked off in the corner.
You need a shower. You smell like a Wingstop bathroom.
I bet Homelander has a weird dick.
The other joke they've been telling has to do with their stunning political commentary. Woo! I know I'm not alone in this. The political parody the boys has been doing is just bad. It's very stupid writing without even thinking about subtlety.
Starlight works with Oprah and Tom Hanks to set up a satanic home delivery service. A combo gets you a child they forced to have trans surgery, and a soda gets you a shot of adrenochrome.
The Vernon family started out as slave catchers. You know, I bet A-Train here would have given my great-great-granddaddy a run for his money.
Oh?
Huh? But we would have caught you.
It's the woke principal and his husband Chad, or could be your uncle who says soups are bad.
When I'm watching a movie, I would appreciate it if a character came out and said, "Hello, I'm evil." Well, that would help me. They don't do that enough.
I can understand having Homelander be a parody of current politics in certain ways, but when they have him calling people libtards, I'm just like, okay, what are we doing? That being said, I do love political-centric stories, like Succession, The Wire, Veep, and as corny as they may be, The Newsroom and The West Wing. I've watched all those stories constantly centered around politics, and it does not hold any point of exhaustion that The Boys makes me have. It gets to a point where I feel like I signed up to watch a show I didn't intend to watch. I understand the politics more reflect how pandering and stupid Homelander is, but here's two problems. One, this was a distraction thrown at us from the writers not having enough material to utilize a whole season's worth of story. And two, this isn't what Homelander would do. He's smarter than this. Whether I agree with their sentiments or not on the Republican Party, making Homelander a Trump allegory fucking sucks. And it doesn't matter how many political opinions they put into their show. I'm never gonna take it seriously while they are owned by the most pro-establishment corporate man on the fucking planet. You guys are not anti-establishment establishment. You are BuzzFeed writers. Stay in your lane. If you're a Republican, just because you're being made fun of doesn't mean you have a valid reason to go on a disrespectful Facebook tirade saying the boys have gone woke. And if you're a Democrat, it doesn't inherently mean you have to find this stuff funny just because they're making fun of the other team, or else you're just as bad as them when they make stupid, lazy commentary about you. Ultimately, their parody of Republicans should have been maybe an episode, not a major aspect of the show, especially since I don't trust Eric Kripke to have a good sense of judgment to make statements like this. Including politics and topical moments into your show doesn't automatically mean you deserve the title of having nuance and clever commentary. You actually have to earn those.
The Tech Night plumbs a whole new pit of darkness with its soundtrack of Nirvana hits and a 12-minute sequence that's entirely pitch black.
That being said, shows are absolutely allowed to push opinions, but it shouldn't be used as a writing flashbang to distract the audience that you ran out of ideas. One of the reasons The Boys never has excitement anymore is their very quick solution towards a problem. I remember in the second episode of the show where they spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to kill the superhero Translucent. It was a lot of fun to follow. It wasn't mind-blowing super creative stuff, but it felt fun trying to figure out a way to kill what seemed like an unkillable being. I do understand why they can't always do those kinds of scenes with every single suit they come across. It would slow down the series a lot, but it would have been nice to see it a few more times. I mean, by their logic, should we have seen Walt cook meth only once? It added some layers towards how the powers actually work, how the boys think differently from everyone else, and it told the audience to use their heads. The only time they mentioned their method of killing Supes since that point was in season 4, and that was brought up to specifically say they can't kill this character, which was an excuse because they wanted the Deep alive for the final season. All just to drag out his appearance so his death could be in the finale for padded stats to the final episode kill count of important characters. It sucks all the tension out like a vacuum knowing that these characters are overpowered and somehow weak enough to have plot armor. Besides the deaths, their solution towards every single situation is just running away, and it works out a shocking amount of times. I am tired of them just being able to walk away from the supposed strongest and most versatile superhero in the world so many times, especially this season when he isn't even holding back anymore and actually wholeheartedly wants to kill them. Before this season, there was always a reason for Homelander not to kill the boys, but now they are sacrificing Homelander as this big threat, sacrificing the intelligence and world building they established, and absolutely insulted the viewer's intelligence as well. Just the fact that this scene happened and Homelander didn't kill all of them is downright crazy. What's the point of having this show even exist if you're not going to have tension with the main villain whose whole appeal is potentially dying at any moment if you're in a room with him? That's when I realized the writers are more bark than bite when it comes to Homelander. In scenes like that, or in legitimate fight scenes where he isn't holding back, he gets his ass kicked. Really think about this. 25% of this show is hyping up what Homelander would do if he took off the chains, and it's been a letdown every time. You would think by this point in the show, you can confidently say that these characters have changed or grown, but these characters haven't. In fact, they are at most times stagnant and other times reduced. Them constantly returning to their default personality by the end of each season makes me see right through the writers. Each new MacGuffin they add each season isn't story development, it's simulated adventures. They throw enough quirky shit at you to make you feel like this is one hell of a bumpy ride, but it all ends at the same place. It's the definition of jingling keys. Is it extreme to say it shares more qualities with CW's The Flash than it does any other legitimate dramas? I don't think so.
Absolute zero.
This season was disappointing, and that finale, I felt nothing. The first thing to get started with is the elephant in the room, which is the VCU's very own Vought Rising. You know, this is pretty case in point to what I was saying earlier. Kripke does not care about his own story, so he's mentally moving on by adding these completely new quests and characters each season. And when he does give a new quest to the already established characters, it feels like such a hard pivot to the point where we as the audience can't help but feel alienated to the character because it's like we don't know them anymore. I find it hilarious that Kripke Kripke is letting everyone know for Vought Rising that he won't be begging sympathy with Stormfront because she's a Nazi, but he'll be begging for sympathy with the racist, bully, piece of shit with daddy issues from season 3, then a forced recontextualization purely for marketing purposes to fall in love with a Nazi. This all reminds me of that one episode of The Office called The Farm, where they were essentially teeing up a spin-off show centered around Dwight and his quirky family. It wasn't bad for The Office to try to do. They served it up on a plate, showed it to the audience, and everyone said respectfully, no thanks. And then they carried on through the rest of the season. But The Boys is just bombarding us with Vought Rising. It's downright insulting to everyone who has been waiting for the final season for years to watch Kripke spend more time on his Vought Rising and Supernatural dolls than the characters that have been paying his bills for the past 7 years. You know what's hilarious about all this setup for Vought Rising? Is that these one-note logline versions of the characters are going to be totally different if Vought Rising ever reaches its completed series finale. Because Kripke doesn't know how to keep his story structured. Mark my words, by the end of that stupid fucking spinoff, it's going to destroy the final season of The Boys in terms of canon. Because clearly, they are willing to completely change everything to fit their narrative.
Why do you hate me? I loved her more. And this is what she would want. I founded it in '52. Me and this other soup, Liberty. Man, was she a firecracker.
I feel like it doesn't take a genius writer to say, don't center the plot around characters we have never met. Look at all the characters in this field, all of their shared stories, the pettiness, the spite, the hatred and love these characters share, and their instinct is to center it around characters we've never met. They can't even keep the record straight between one episode. In the season 5 premiere, Butcher's whole goal in that episode is to save and recruit Frenchie, specifically to finish the virus that was already established to work last season, but sure, he needs Frenchie to finish it. Then the very next episode, when they get to Butcher's lab, all of a sudden the virus is already complete. So naturally the audience is thinking, if the job is already done, why does Butcher need Frenchie? Well, they don't even bring it up. There wasn't a moment where Butcher asks Frenchie to do anything specifically. He just says, it's finished, let's test it. Think about that season 4 finale again. How else was Butcher directly saying to the rest of the group, I'm going my own way and don't try to stop me, just for them to get back together again? Time and time again, Kripke takes one step forward in his finales just to take 3 steps back at the beginning of each season. I mean, seriously, he sacrificed so much to get this specific outcome for the final season. The virus being set up as the soup killer just to magically not have any effect on the brand new variant of V1 soups. Ryan being set up as this metaphorical future of the boys. Godhood versus manhood in his 2 father figures. But what happened? He got put in the ground, and now his fate is entirely irrelevant because they made Homelander immortal, so now Ryan's fate isn't even in the equation. The Flight 37 tapes that were once so important that it cooled off Homelander from killing everyone? Just call it AI made by the dumb liberals. And they made it actually go away at the drop of a hat. Really think about that. They sacrificed an incredibly powerful and dark thing in Homelander's past, something that would have made his PR ratings go into the toilet and seen as the villain he truly is. But they just said it was AI because it's topical. You are not serious people, Kripke. God, I'm breathing so fucking heavy. Even the little plot beats are all over the place, like Black Noir 2's death. I actually think that's the most beautifully put death in the show. Last season, he was able to tank a goddamn sentry gun, but in this world of endless creativity with superpowers, the best thing the writers could have come up with was being stabbed to death like any Joe Schmo in the world could die from. It feels like they're just killing people because it's the final season. They're just checking off boxes with no love. Deep killing Black Noir was not impactful, nor does it carry any moral weight onto the Deep. Same thing with Frenchie's death. As I was saying before, all this hype of Homelander taking off the gloves puts a huge clog down the show's drain. I know they wanted to send Frenchie off as beautifully as they could, but once again, it sacrifices Homelander's brutality. Homelander will show brutality to random people. Homelander will say that he will do unspeakable things to the boys.
I'm gonna fillet you alive. You, Starlight, all the non-believers. You're all gonna fucking drown in your own blood.
But the first one he killed, he just gave a little shot to his tummy, off screen. It all feels so pointless. Their techniques to portraying the state of Homelander's America is vaguely mentioning raids, riots, internment camps, and name-dropping a bunch of random celebrities they arrested. This world should go full-blown dystopia, but it's weirdly calm. It's very frustrating.
Sir.
Ban nut milk.
Ryan, the virus, Flight 37, Soldier Boy, Homelander taking over America, Butcher being set up as a villain. All of that was addressed in this season to simply say we addressed it, just to immediately throw it into the trash can for the sake of defying expectations, as if we all don't know what the exact outcome was going to be. And honestly, they crippled Homelander to the point where I have to agree. The V1 arc was by far the biggest waste of time. Basic Compound V Homelander and V1 Super Juiced Homelander are quite literally the exact same. Watching the finale, you wouldn't even be able to tell that the V1 arc even happened. I sincerely think Homelander becoming president should have been happening since the first episode of the season, so we could explore his Iron Fist. He said in season 3 he'd prefer love, but fear would do just fine. But instead, they have him try to convince America he's Jesus in the penultimate episode. I felt like there was only one good ending to this show. Butcher's plan succeeds, killing all Supes, and Huey kills Butcher for not only the countless murder he committed through the virus, but because he killed Starlight in the process. I feel like it would have been a full circle moment. Butcher killing Annie would have made him the exact same monster as Homelander and the rest of the Supes. Homelander's death was always going to be the climax of the whole story, but it was always truly about Butcher and Huey. But apparently to Kripke,
it was impossible to tick every box and tie up every little storyline. I mean, just try making everybody happy. You can't do it.
To be honest, I don't know how I'm feeling inside. I don't know if I get
the show and the audience are in a bubble, ultimately. The audience applauds the show for being original and creative, but it's because they haven't seen much else. It's like thinking Peter Piper Pizza is the epitome of Italian food, but having never been to a real authentic Italian joint. All the tropes and the plots and the concepts are stuff I have seen before, and not just seen before, but stuff that has been done better before. The writers are trapped in this delusion of saying this show is one thing while delivering another. They say these characters are important, but are steamrolled by whatever the fresh new character arc Kripke gets a hard-on for. The first season was very clear on it being a war between the pampered egocentric celebrity versus the honest working moral person, but it got blinded by an audience who loved comparing their scenes to real-world examples. So then they started adding more parodies, more scenes designed to be upvoted on Reddit. With a craving of digital applause, they lost the point of the show. Forget about them being freedom fighters, let's make them government agents and make all the superheroes bumbling buffoons. Why? I don't know, it'd be funny. And I swear to God, if any of you say, bro, it's meant to be funny, so just have fun, I'm gonna kill you. Because in my spare time, I watch so many different relaxed comedies. The whole point watching these shows is to have fun, but that doesn't mean any actual criticism gets shoved away. If this show was more like Kripke's previous show, Supernatural, then I wouldn't have anything to say. This video wouldn't exist, because that show's meant to be fun episodic adventures. But The Boys wants to be taken seriously, wants to enter the arena and show its chest, saying I'm good television. Just have fun, fuck you. Show me where the fun is.
Look, I want everyone to love it. Not fun to go online and have 1,000 comments in a row saying, you suck, you suck, you suck, you suck. Your job is to get an emotional reaction out of people. If people love it, if people hate it, as long as they're feeling emotion, then I've done my job.
Look, Eric, let me get real with you, babe. It's already too late. You were making fun of Marvel for having meaningless spin-offs and just being overall soulless movies on top of that. Look at you now. You guys made Gen V, which was a desperate move to target a teenage demographic. Oh my god, he's in fucking everything! You're making Vought Rising, which sounds pointless, especially since you guys spent an entire season showing Soldier Boy's backstory that takes place 30 years after Vought Rising. What kind of epic conclusion could there even be when Soldier Boy and Stormfront just go on to hang out like normal for literal decades? I'm telling you, man, it's gonna feel unnecessary. If you were truly passionate like you say you are, then you wouldn't have filler arcs, you wouldn't bend reality to force a plot point, you wouldn't start thinking of multi-seasonal setups in season 4 of your show, and you wouldn't cater to fans as hard as you've been doing. You know it's bad when Anthony Starr had to tell Kripke in season 4 that Homelander and Trump are just objectively different people. On one hand, these writers get defensive and say, this is a satire with big dicks and super cum. Don't take this show seriously, just have fun. But then there are plenty of moments where they are wanting you to take it seriously with no satire involved. So which is it? Are you dismissing criticism based on the quirkiness of your show, or are you using it as a shield to to not fix your show. This once was a show that defied a mainstream organization like Marvel into becoming Marvel's weird uncle who forces bad words into conversation to show their nephew how cool they are. This story was genuinely badass in the first season because of the Seven being actually competent instead of entitled strawman idiots, and the boys themselves were the symbol to all soups. No matter who you are, no matter how powerful, how rich, how famous, the wheel will always turn. You could physically feel they were true justice. They were the fucking Grim Reaper. Now, I don't even have feelings for when they die because the people they once were are long gone. This show to me is the face of the first season problem, except Kripke didn't know how much talent and potential this show even had. He describes the boys as his fun little genitalia show. Meanwhile, we saw it as an anti-conglomerate revenge story with global and personal stakes. Kripke truly is in a bubble, and I wish he popped it before it was too late.
My Hero Academia is a show about a green-haired, freckle-having loser named Izuku Midoriya. He lives in a world where 80% of humanity has developed superpowers straight out of comic books called quirks. Some people get blessed with cool quirks that grant them godlike command of the elements like fire or wind, and other people get quirks like tail. And this fucking kid that pulls his eyeballs out of his head. What is happening here? Midoriya wants to be a pro hero since in this world that is an actual career path. But unfortunately, he received some devastating news when he was just 4 years old. Mrs. Midoriya, I'm afraid there's something wrong with your son. Oh no, what do you mean? How much time you got? Turns out Midoriya is part of the 20% of humanity that are born quirkless. So the other kids in his class bully him over it, call him names like loser, weakling, and Deku. Chief among his bullies is his childhood friend named Katsuki Bakugo. His quirk is Explosion, which allows Bakugo to create explosions by igniting the nitroglycerin-like sweat on his hands. And since he can make explosions whenever he wants, I assume that means his hands are always sweaty and clammy as fuck. Bakugo relentlessly bullies Midoriya every single day for years. Why? Because when they were kids, Bakugo accidentally fell into a small river and Midoriya tried to help him up one time. Yeah, there's nothing else to it, that's literally it. Apparently, that was enough for Bakugo to fucking snap and go Super Saiyan 2 over it. Here's how a typical interaction between the two of them goes down. Hey, Kachan, wanna hang out after school? Kachan?
kill yourself.
On his way home from school, Midoriya is attacked by a villain slime monster, but before he gets killed, he's saved by All Might, the current #1 hero, Deku's idol, and the only person in this show that is drawn like he comes from American comic books. Midoriya winds up accidentally seeing All Might's true form, which is this skinny Soul Eater looking thing. It turns out All Might sustained a major injury from a previous battle and now can only maintain his hero muscle form for a few hours a day, but the public doesn't know that. Midoriya promises not to tell anyone All Might's secret, but Midoriya musters up the courage to ask All Might if he thinks he can be a hero without a quirk. All Might, the #1 hero and the master at putting a smile on people's faces, says, fucking no? What kind of idiot thinks they can be a hero without a quirk? Midoriya leaves all dejected, but he sees that same slime villain from before attacking another person. Turns out the person being attacked was Bakugo, and Midoriya knows that if he tries to help, it would be suicide. All Might is actually in the area, and he sees this happening, but because he's already hit his daily hero limit, he can no longer help even if he wanted to. The clock is ticking, Bakugo is slowly dying until... Midoriya springs into action without thinking, and he throws a mighty punch that... Deku, you're useless. But even though Midoriya couldn't do anything, his actions inspire All Might to push past his limits and defeat the slime villain again with a... The day is saved and All Might visits Midoriya at his house, telling him the words he's always wanted to hear. Young man, you can be a hero. All you have to do is eat my hair. Wait, what? All Might, I don't feel any different. All you did was hand me this loaded gun. Young Midoriya, when the time comes, you'll know what to do with that. Turns out, All Might's quirk is called One for All, a quirk that allows one to stockpile power and then pass it on from person to person, gaining more strength over time. With a new quirk in hand, Midoriya applies to UA High School, the #1 school in Japan for training heroes. He meets a cute girl named Ochako, and like a smooth operator... he falls flat on his face. He just like me, for real, for real. She tells him that she likes the name Deku, and Midoriya decides to reclaim the name as his superhero name instead of the slur that Bakugo was using it as. That's our word! You can't use it like that! In order to attend UA High School, he first must pass the entrance exam. The exam consists of defeating a bunch of robots for a high score. Deku is struggling to get a single point until he sees that cute girl from before trapped under some rubble. And Deku has his very first badass moment. I gotta save that girl! Damn it! Everyone is extremely impressed and so many girls were watching. But Deku's body currently cannot handle One for All's power. So every time he uses it, his arms and legs break and crumble apart like your parents' marriage. Regardless, Deku's heroic display gives him a gold star and allows him to be accepted into UA High School. We are then introduced to Class 1A. Essentially, these are the main characters we will be following for the rest of the story. Might as well talk about them right now because the author will forget 75% of them exist by the end of the story. Of the 20 students, over half of them get to do fuck all, half the remaining are pretty cool but fall into obscurity around the halfway point of the story, and finally leaving the only characters that matter, the top 3 hero boys who are basically the first, second, and third protagonists. I should also mention the homeroom teacher Aizawa. He's the cool, serious, powerful mentor type that has one of the most useful quirks in the entire show, which allows him to cancel out his opponent's quirk just by looking at them, and then he just beats the shit out of them like a normal person. After a quick physical fitness test to measure their quirks, Deku manages to use his quirk to throw a baseball into space without breaking his arm. Instead, he just broke one finger. Next, Class 1A are split up into teams and have to play heroes and villains. Of course, Deku gets pit against Bakugo. But now that Deku has powers of his own, it's time to finally stand up to Bakugo and show him once and for all he is not the same weakling as before. Deku's team manages to win.
Bomb has been defused.
Bakugo is scolded by All Might for acting like an arrogant jerk to everyone, and it's this reality check where Bakugo finally stops being the world's biggest asshole, and instead mellows out into just a regular asshole. Then UA decides to have some training for the kids at USJ. Before they can get started, however, they are ambushed by the League of Villains, a group of dastardly ruffians that just want to watch the world burn because the main bad guy read half a comic book or something. I don't know, fuck you. The League is actually pretty small at first, with only 3 core members: Kurogiri, a shadow dude that can teleport stuff with his portals, this bird-looking freak named Nomu, and finally Shigaraki. Shigaraki is the leader of the League of Villains, and he's also covered in hands. Don't forget, Shigaraki is also a gamer, so he likes to use gamer lingo like,
I am not the final boss. Back to the title screen. Looks like our game's getting a continue. It's game over for real.
And when he's really upset, he uses the ultimate gaming word, Well, heroes. Looks like the situation's gotten out of hand. Now where's All Might? So Nomu here can hand him his own ass. All Might's not here. Oh damn, really? Yeah man, sorry. Fuck. Deku gets stranded on a boat with Frog Girl and Minato. Of course, since this is like their second day of hero school, they are woefully unprepared and they start to panic. Okay, we're surrounded. We have me, who can't use his quirk without breaking his limbs, and then we have... Oh god, we're gonna die. Oh, I wish All Might was here. He would know what to do in this situation. Young Midoriya, when the time comes, you'll know what to do with that. Holy shit! Okay, well I gotta hand it to you. You're better than I thought, but you haven't even begun to grasp the depths of my master plan. Mother... Okay, you know what? Screw this, let's get out of here. The bad guys make their escape, but not before All Might shows up and punches the shit out of that bird fellow while somehow managing to double the amount of syllables in the word plus ultra. The next major arc is the Sports Festival, a big event that showcases all the UA students' abilities and quirks to hero agencies for a potential job opportunity after graduation. There's a bunch of games and stuff, but it ultimately boils down to a tournament arc. Here are some of the highlights of the fights. Ochako versus Bakugo, which actually isn't the curb stomp you'd think it'd be. I mean, yes, Bakugo does eventually beat the brakes off her, but at least Ochako actually gets to hold her own for a while, and this is the coolest she gets to be in the whole series before she kind of just turns into the love interest and does nothing from now on. Then we have Deku versus Shinso. And before the match, Deku gets some advice on how to deal with his quirk from the forgettable tail guy. Now remember Deku, this guy's quirk lets him brainwash you only if you respond to him. So no matter what he says to you, do not respond. Okay, I got it. Loser says what? What? Damn it! I guess now is a good time to mention that during this arc we are introduced to Shoto Todoroki. He's been effortlessly winning the festival events through his super strong ice quirk. Technically, his quirk gives him the power of ice and fire. However, he refuses to use his fire powers because he inherited it from his father, Endeavor, who is also the rank number 2 hero. Shoto absolutely hates his father. Why? Well, you see, Endeavor was obsessed with being better than All Might, the number 1 hero. But when he realized he could never beat him, he tried to make a child with a strong enough quirk to do it. Okay, but what did Endeavor do that was so bad? Well, it says here that Endeavor beats his kids. Oh my god, at Mario Kart. Oh. Well, that doesn't sound too bad. Wait, sorry, he beats his kids with Mario Kart. I'll teach you to hit me with a blue shell. No, Daddy Yamete! Blah blah blah, long story short, Shoto's mom was driven insane from all the abuse she and the family endured from Endeavor, and she throws boiling hot water on Shoto's face, giving him the Prince Zuko special. Shoto blames Endeavor for this and wants to prove he can be a hero with just his mom's ice quirk. Trust me, this family drama is extremely important later, so I'm explaining it now. We finally get Deku versus Shoto. Now listen here, I'm just gonna beat you with my ice quirk, and there is no way you are ever gonna convince me to use my fire. Deku loses the fight, but he manages to get Shoto to use his fire, which makes Endeavor really happy. I just really like the way he says that, it's pretty funny. The final match is between Bakugo and Shoto, but Shoto still doesn't want to use his fire, so he tries to fight without it, and Bakugo hits him with the... And that's the end of the school festival. Bakugo, Shoto, and Tokoyami are the top 3 winners. It's also the end of Shoto being an edgy, I hate you dad type character, and instead transforms into a boring ass cardboard cutout of unsalted crackers. From here, due to their performance at the school festival, Class 1A has started receiving opportunities to work alongside heroes in the exciting world of unpaid internships. These internships answer the fanbase's most burning questions like, what if we put the cute frog girl in a sailor suit? Or, what if we gave Bakugo a low taper fade? While all this is going on, a new villain emerges named Stain, and he says,
Everybody betrayed me. I fed up with this world.
You see, he believes that heroes of today are a bunch of fake-ass posers that are only in it for the fame and money. So his solution to this problem is to hunt down the heroes he deems unworthy and fucking kill them. One of the heroes he hunts is Ida's big brother, Ingenium, and he puts him in the hospital. And that makes Ida big mad, and he says, ha! That's no good. Except he didn't really say it like that, he said it more like, I'll fucking kill him! So Ida decides to take his internship in the same city as Stain in order to get his revenge. Luckily, Ida winds up running into Stain on his first night. There you are, you bastard. This is for my brother! Yeah! Shoto and Deku arrive on the scene. Well, heroes. Came to get slaughtered just like your friends? Who? Just be warned, I've been trained in over 600 forms of martial arts, and even 1 martial crafts. Pair that with my invincible quirk, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Oh hey, the paralysis wore off. Now boys, as your class president, I have to tell you, you can't just beat on a villain like that without me, I'll fucking kill you! The day is saved, but before everyone goes back home, Stain manages to get back up and deliver his message to the world. A message so powerful and charismatic it throws a wrench into hero society and inspires a new wave of villains and dissatisfaction with the status quo.
I'm not a big fan of the government. 30 on 30. I'm not a big fan of the government. 30 on 30 on 30. I'm not a big fan of the government.
This message totally works, and the League of Villains gets a bunch of new members like Himiko Toga, a character the fanbase likes to pretend is complex and morally gray and not completely insane, but in reality she gets a pass because she's got that crazy hot thing going on, and also people ship her with Ochako. And Dabi, a cool looking fire user that is definitely not related to Endeavor. He's also probably the best written villain on this show. We also have other villains like Twice, who is one of the only 2 sympathetic villains on the crew. And then we have Mr. Compress and Spinner, who are so boring and inconsequential to the story they might as well be red shirts. From here, the school decides it's time to have a training camp in the middle of the forest to level up the students' quirks to become even more powerful. While there, they meet a young boy named Kota, whose parents were killed by a villain. Deku goes over to introduce himself. Hey Kota, my name's Deku. It's nice to meet you. It does not go well. A few days of training pass and Aizawa has some special instructions for them. Okay, you kids keep working on your quirks. I'm gonna go get some sleep. Do not disturb me unless it is an absolute emergency. Got it? Yes, Sensei. Mr. Aizawa Sensei, I've been rock hard for over 4 hours. What should I do? Go see the nurse, Kurishima. Okay, Sensei, thank you. I love you. Mr. Aizawa Sensei, I can't see! Just open your eyes, Kaminari. Oh, thanks, Sensei. I love you. Sensei, the League of Villains found us and they're attacking. What should we do? Go away and deal with it yourself. You got it, Sensei. I love you. Yes, the League of Villains somehow manages to find them in the middle of nowhere and begins attacking. Deku runs off to go save Kota, who's being attacked by Muscular, the villain who killed Kota's parents in the first place. Using his new full cowling technique, he charges at Muscular with everything he has. It does not go well. Deku is about to be smushed to death, but then Kota hits him with the... This gives Deku the opening he needs to pull every last bit of strength out of his ass and hit him with the... Back at camp, the villains make a huge mess of things and manage to kidnap Bakugo. Back at the League of Villains hideout. So, Bakugo, first let me apologize for getting so handsy with you. I was actually gonna ask you if you'd like to take my hand and join our merry band of villains. Yeah, I'll pass. Nice choice in facial accessory, by the way. If I had to live as you, I'd be facepalming all the time, too. Ooh, a backhanded compliment. My favorite. Kurogiri, why don't you serve our friend here to calm his nerves? Right away, sir. I meant serve him a drink, you jackass! Just then, All Might and the police swarm the hideout. The League are about to get captured, but then they get warped away by a third party. This third party is the mysterious master of Shigaraki, and he reveals himself as All for One, the ultimate evil and the main antagonist of the series. His quirk is All for One, and yes, it is stupid and confusing that his villain name is also his quirk name. You don't call All Might One for All. Also, if you haven't noticed, the entire plot of My Hero Academia can be summarized like this.
All for one!
And one for all!
All for one!
And one for all!
So what exactly makes All for One so powerful? Well, he has the ability to steal and transfer quirks if he touches you. For example, if he stole Bakugo's explosion quirk, he would also have extremely sweaty hands. One for All can also use multiple quirks at once, and his body even mutates to fit whatever quirk he's using to the point where it looks like me when I discovered Rule 34 for the first time. There is how much porn of Shell from El Dorado? So with all that out of the way, All for One confronts All Might and they begin their epic rematch. It is then where All for One reveals to All Might his master plan, something he's been cooking up for years and years.
I am going to commit great crime. I'm going to bust nut in Water Tower. United
All Might manages to defeat All for One, but he used up every last bit of his remaining One for All embers. So now he's forced to retire and he is permanently in his skinny form from now on. Next is your turn. Next is my turn.
Probably not you specifically. I think it's a metaphor.
Shigaraki loses his master and becomes the de facto leader of the League of Villains. There's a nice parallel between both of the masters being put out of commission and their proteges taking up their mantles as the symbol of peace and the symbol of being a piece of shit. Nailed it. Deku decides he doesn't want to keep emulating All Might and destroying his arms, and instead decides to use his legs, which he calls full cowling shoot style. You see, it's called shoot style because he... Oh my god! Minetsu got shot! Somebody call the nurse! Anyone call the nurse? What comes next is Bakugo inviting Deku out in the middle of the night to talk. Bakugo figures out Deku's dirty little secret and demands that Deku prove to him why All Might chose him as the successor by fighting him 1v1.
Prepare yourself for an unmerciless beating, Fry Roll Shoe! Shablaka! Have you ever experienced the almighty 3-shoe beating? Take me!
Bakugo manages to come out on top, as well as looking like a top. Good god, look at that. All Might decides there's no point in keeping the secret of One for All from Bakugo and tells him everything. We are then introduced to the top 3 of UA High School. We have Lemillion, who is one of the best characters in this entire show, Sun Eater, this Sasuke-looking dude who's super depressed and is about one insult away from ending it all, and finally Girl, whose greatest accomplishment in the series is winning a beauty pageant and losing every fight she's in. Speaking of women, I gotta say, most of the female cast in My Hero Academia gets shafted pretty hard. Sure, they start off pretty strong and well written, like Ochako in the sports festival, but over time they don't get to do a whole lot compared to what the men get to do. The girls are mostly there to be shipped with the boys and to fulfill whatever Rule 34 tag you're into, and good god, is there a lot of Rule 34. We got the nice sweet female lead in a skin-tight bodysuit, the tomboy-looking alien chick in a skin-tight bodysuit that can generate her own lube infinitely, the conservative class president rich girl with huge honkin' tits, the invisible girl that is literally always naked until she's not, a sexy dominatrix that's allowed to teach high school children, a hot blonde that can grow to the size of a giant, imagine how that must feel when you're getting rescued, a hot blue-skinned short-haired girl that shows off some serious midriff, a girl dressed in full skin-tight leather and has huge tits, the size of a giant, imagine how that must feel when you're getting rescued, a hot blue-skinned short-haired girl that shows off some serious midriff, a girl dressed in full skin-tight leather and has huge tits, the yandere I can fix her schoolgirl type, and a dark-skinned, muscular tomboy bunny girl. Ooh, that was a 4-for-1 deal. Got me looking like all for one, you know what I'm saying? I got a built-in goon quirk, you know what I'm saying? I'm jorking my peanuts, you know what I'm saying? Class 1A meets the big 3, and Lemillion challenges all of them to a 1v20 fight before he falls through the floor due to his quirk. Where do you think he goes when he does that? I don't know. Probably somewhere boring. Deku Deku wants to take a work study with All Might's former sidekick Sir Night-Eye, and it turns out Lemillion is already working for him. So Lemillion agrees to introduce Deku, but first tells him that Sir Night-Eye values humor. So if Deku can make him laugh, he's a shoo-in. Sir Night-Eye? Would it be All Might if I joined your team? Was that supposed to be funny? Weird. That always used to make my dad laugh before he left me and my mom and never came back home. Night-Eye accepts Deku on the team, and his first order of business is letting Deku know that they are conducting a secret investigation on the Yakuza, led by a young man named Chisaki, aka Overhaul. Deku and Lemillion go out on patrol, and a little girl runs out of an alleyway and bumps into Deku. The little girl is covered in bandages and looks scared and says, "You gotta get me the fuck out of here, bro. I can't go back to that shithole. They're giving me shit food and ugly-ass off-brand toys like Borby." Feminism is alright, I guess. A man comes out of the alleyway to collect the girl, and it turns out to be none other than Overhaul. Overhaul says that this is his daughter, Eri, and he takes her back, promising to get her a new Barbie doll. Afterwards, Overhaul meets with Shigaraki and the League of Villains for a business proposition. Man, this place is a dump! This is your house. I hear that you Yakuza want a helping hand from the League of Villains. Yes, with our manpower and your influence, we could be the new rulers of the underworld. Sounds a little far-fetched. You got some kind of plan to go with all that ambition? We aren't giving free handouts, you know. Stop doing that. And if you must know, we have these special bullets that can permanently erase someone's quirk. If we control the supply and demand of these bullets, we could destroy all of hero society with this. Perfect. I love it. No notes. Let's shake on it. The hell's wrong with him? It's faster if you stop asking why. The heroes arrive at the hideout, and since Lemillion has the ability to phase through things, he manages to get to Overhaul first. Overhaul tries to kill Lemillion by touching him, but... What the? Ah, crap. Lemillion slaps Overhaul across both ass cheeks, but unfortunately, using some dastardly tricks, Overhaul permanently destroys Lemillion's quirk. Deku, Night-Eye, and Aizawa all finally show up to help. Night-Eye winds up getting impaled on a spike created by Overhaul. This was the horrible future I saw. Get out while you still can, kids. Sir Night-Eye, you can't die! I can't lose another father figure in my life. Deku, stop, it hurts to laugh. Come on, this is serious. All hope seems lost, but Eri's powers awaken right then and there. Turns out, Eri's quirk is the power to rewind.
Yeah, it's rewind time.
Normally this would be a bad thing, but while Eri's power is active, Deku is able to access 100% of One For All constantly. With cheat mode enabled, Deku confronts Overhaul at 100%.
Holy mackerel! Mushroom, beat some sense into that overcooked noodle that you call a head! Shablaka!
After Deku absolutely decimates Overhaul, the fight is over. However, Eri's powers are still out of control. Hey Eri, do you think you can turn off your powers now? Listen here, bitch. I don't tell you how to throw a punch. You don't tell me how to use my fucking horn thing. Oh, okay. Sorry to bother you. I'll just lie down here for a second. Also, Overhaul is found by the League of Villains and they mock him for losing like a bitch. Well, I bet you regret calling my place a dump now, huh? You said that. I just want you to know that your quirk erasing bullets are in good hands now. Just kill me already. What? I don't want to kill you. I just want to disarm you. Get it? Disarm? Do you get it? Things go back to normal. You know, besides Lemillion losing his quirk permanently and Night-Eye fucking dying. And school activities resume. The school festival is coming up, and Class 1A is trying to figure out what event they should host. Haunted house, maid cafe, soba stand, strip club. Why don't we do a live music concert? Yeah! Meanwhile, a new villain is introduced, Gentle Criminal. He's a thief that records his heists and uploads them onto YouTube. Gentle is bummed out he isn't getting as many views as he thinks he should. But then Gentle gets an idea. An awful idea. A wonderful, awful idea. He decides to break into UA High School since the security has been turned up so high from all the recent villain attacks. If he can pull it off, people will have no choice but to acknowledge his Phantom Thief skills. Fast forward to the day of the show, Gentle Criminal prepares for the big day, and his usual ritual before a heist means that he has to drink a super rare and expensive tea, because he's so painfully British. Oh my god, La Brava. This isn't tea at all. This is... Today's sponsor, GamerSups. That's right, your boy got his very first sponsorship. GamerSups is the only energy drink I trust to give me the boost I need to break into a bank unseen, make my way all the way to the vault, make a critical mistake and trip the laser security defense system, have the cops called on us, have to improvise and take hostages, shoot one of the hostages in the leg to show that I'm serious, throw up in the bathroom because I've never shot a gun before, drink some more GamerSups, and finally make a speedy getaway in a self-driving car La Brava managed to hack. GamerSups made all that possible! Every flavor I've tried is delicious, yes, including flavors like lean or anime girl thigh. Yes, those are the real names, it's hilarious. My personal favorite is Goof Juice by One Moist Critical. Yes, quite. Woo! It's got 100 milligrams of caffeine, no sugar, no fillers, no calories, and it's even keto and diabetic friendly. And if you use my code WARIO, you get 10% off your entire order. And videos like this one. Oh yes. On his way back from buying clothes at the soup store,
why are you buying clothes at the soup store?
Deku accidentally bumps into Gentle Criminal. He notices Gentle carrying a bag with a $sign on it and figures out that Gentle is planning on breaking into the UA high school. However, if he were to break into UA, the school would be put on lockdown, and the live show everyone's worked so hard on would be for nothing, and poor little Eri might never smile again. Deku is determined to stop Gentle, so he tells him to turn himself in, otherwise they're gonna have to throw hands. Gentle Criminal, who is at the end of his rope, doubles down on the heist and tells Deku he's not backing down. La Brava, roll the cameras. What's up, my thugs and or criminals? I'm about to pull off the world's greatest heist, and the first step to making that happen is to fist fight this child. But before we get started, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Wario Bro Z, yes, this one, the one you are actually watching right now. Click the subscribe button right now, all the cool kids are doing it. Also happy to announce that I now have a Patreon. It's brand new, and there are really cool exclusive stuff on there you won't be able to get on YouTube, like this picture of Bakugo and Deku kissing. All the links are down below. So, are we gonna fight, or... Shut up, kid! I'm trying to make my bag! Look, man, I don't want to hurt you. Hurt me? But you're a child! What could you possibly do to me? I'll, like, flick air at you really hard with my new move, Air Force. Oh no, you're going to flick air at me? I don't know if I can handle air. Oh, whatever will I do? Okay, yeah, I'll turn myself in. Gentle and La Brava get arrested, and Deku makes it back to the concert on time, but he was so busy fighting Gentle, he completely forgot his choreography. Don't just stand there, you idiot! Do something! The concert works and we see Eri smiling again. All is well in the world. Okay, so now the story takes a break from the heroes and chooses only to follow the villains for a while in My Villain Academia. The arc begins and it turns out the villains are broke and are just sitting around watching TV. But just then, they are contacted by Dr. Doofenshmirtz, who tells them he is the leader of the Meta Liberation Army. The Liberation Army thinks that the League of Villains is bad for business, so he invites them to his city to have a final showdown. The League agrees and they arrive at the city, but it turns out the entire city is working for Doofenshmirtz, and they bum rush the League. Things are looking really bad for the League until... Now that Twice knows that he's the original, he can use his quirk without fear and summons an infinite number of Twice clones. This instantly turns the tide of the battle, and now the League of Villains have their own army to fight a city's worth of people. Shigaraki finally manages to catch up to Doofenshmirtz, and they have a battle of wits. There's no escape, Doofenshmirtz. I caught you red-handed. Ah, Shigaraki, always... I can't do the voice. Ah, Shigaraki, always sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. Oh god, now there's two of them. I just want the world to be free to use their quirks as they see fit. But you thugs only know how to destroy. You'd rather cut off your nose to spite your face. This is actually my hell. You know, seeing how your dream is about to slip through your fingers, I figured you'd be more angry. That's my secret, boy. I'm always angry. Shigaraki gets his ass handed to him. And while this is happening, we get a flashback finally explaining his origin story. Shigaraki's real name is Tenko Shimura, and he was just a normal boy that wanted to be a hero like his grandma Nana. The problem is, Tenko's father hates Nana, his own mother, for being a hero, since she died trying to fight All for One and left him all alone. So he took his mommy issues and he made it everybody else's problem. Every time Tenko mentioned superheroes, his father would make him take a seat. To the face. One day, Tenko's dad takes it too far and hits Tenko with a raging demon.
You have a long way to go.
Tenko runs off to the garden to cry, but unfortunately, Tenko's powers of decay manifests right then and there. So when Tenko touches his family, they all begin to die one after the other.
Aw, dang it. Aw, dang it. Aw, dang it. Aw, dang it.
Tenko didn't mean to kill his family, and the only one left was his dad. Tenko begs his father for help, and the father reaches out the only way he knows how. But this is the final straw for Tenko, and he leaps on top of his father. Hey, Dad! Talk to the hand! Tenko, now a Giga orphan, gets found by All for One and Dr. Robotnik. They tell Tenko that they preserved the hands of his murdered family, and that if he wears them, he can feel close to them as well as keep his burning hatred alive. But his mental state is, how you say, not so good. Wearing his family to keep his hatred alive was a great idea, but I'm afraid there's something wrong with Tenko. Why? What do you mean? How much time you got? Tenko is given a new name, and thus, Shigaraki was born. Back to the present, Shigaraki's powers awaken to a new level, and he lets out a decay so powerful it destroys the entire planet. Nah, I'm just kidding, but it does level the entire city. Doofenshmirtz had to chop off his own feet in order to survive the decay. These hands are no longer necessary for my rage. In fact, I don't even need to use hand puns anymore. Oh, thank God. Well. It looks like the real leader of the Liberation Army was right under my nose the entire time. God damn it. The Meta Liberation Army is yours to command. Okay. So the League of Villains just got a massive boost in numbers, resources, and legitimate connections. They now became known as the Paranormal Liberation Front. Dr. Robotnik also makes good on his promise to the League and powers up Shigaraki even more, a process which will take 4 months to complete. This marks the end of My Villain Academia. Time passes and the day arrives for the heroes to launch a full-scale assault on the villains' HQ, which was located in the hospital. Dr. Robotnik is working his day job like usual when the heroes kick the door down. What's up, Doc? He's getting away. Ah, shit, right. Bunny Girl chases Robotnik down to his evil lair, and we can see all the other high-end Nomus and experiments he's been working on, including Shigaraki. Alright, creep, prepare to get your wrinkly ass kicked. I didn't want to have to do this, but you leave me no choice. I'll fight you myself. Psh, please, what's an old fart like you gonna do? Kame. Kame. Tenko, now a Giga orphan, gets found by All for One and Dr. Robotnik. They tell Tenko that they preserved the hands of his murdered family, and that if he wears them, he can feel close to them as well as keep his burning hatred alive. So he took his father's